Chapter 47:58. Nie Tian was not interested in the miracle lands, but Sheng Yichen and the others clearly wanted to go, so he reluctantly went to take a look. The four followed the crowd and soon arrived outside the miracle land. Nie Tian saw an illusory door open at the entrance of a valley. It was 100 meters tall, like a giant guarding the valley. "Brother Nie, this is the entrance to the miracle lands," Bai Zichu said excitedly. "Such a huge miracle door, there must be many good things inside." Nie Tian nodded. He did not understand why they were called miracle lands and miracle doors. "Look, someone is going in." At this moment, someone flew towards the miracle doors, causing the crowd to cheer. Bang! However, in the next moment, there was a dull thud. That person seemed to have hit an invisible barrier and was forcefully bounced back. Seeing this, Nie Tian could not help but frown, a puzzled expression on his face. It seemed that not everyone could enter the miracle lands. "There's a miracle barrier." Bai Zichu became even more excited and exclaimed. "What do you mean?" Nie Tian could not help but look at Bai Zichu in confusion. "Brother Nie, you might not know this, but the miracle lands are the treasures of the heavenly prison Dragon Gate." Bai Zichu was very excited. His eyes were glowing as he explained, "The size of the miracle doors represents the level of the miracle lands. The bigger the miracle doors, the higher the level of the miracle lands, and the more treasures there are inside. However, everyone can enter the ordinary miracle lands. And there are some miraculous lands that have an invisible barrier, known as the miraculous barrier, that restricts those who enter. So that's how it is." Nie Tian roughly understood and could not help but smile. In that case, that person just now was too weak and did not even qualify to enter the miracle lands, right? "That's right." Bai Zichu nodded repeatedly, then his expression turned ugly. He looked around at Sheng Yichen, Zhuo Kunlun, and the others and said dejectedly, "Among us, my strength and talent are the weakest. I'm afraid I won't be able to enter the miracle lands." "Your talent is not weak, it's just that you have too little confidence in yourself." Nie Tian smiled and said in a flat tone. "Sigh." Bai Zichu sighed, feeling that Nie Tian was just comforting him. In fact, Nie Tian was not entirely comforting Bai Zichu. In his opinion, Bai Zichu's talent might not be much weaker than Sheng Yichen and Zhuo Kunlun. It was just that Bai Zichu was somewhat belittling himself and felt that he was inferior to others. Bang! 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 At this time, there was a constant sound of impact coming from the miracle gate. Many people wanted to enter the miracle land, but they were blocked by the miracle barrier. Only a few people managed to enter the land of miracles. "Nie Tian, are you also interested in the miracle land?" At this time, a familiar voice sounded, and two figures landed beside Nie Tian at the same time. Jikachin and Emo Xiantian, the Tao son of the Tao sect and the Fiend's son of the Devil sect. "I'm just looking around." Nie Tian smiled faintly. He was really not interested in the miracle land and was just here to watch the show. "Taoist son, demon son, the level of this miracle land is a little high. Do you two want to give it a try?" Bai Zichu was very cautious in front of Jikachin and Emo Xiantian as he said with a smile, "Yes." Jikachin nodded with a smile and did not say anything else. His figure moved like a stream of light and disappeared into the miracle gate. Taoist son is indeed a top genius of the prison, to be able to enter so easily. Bai Zichu's eyes flickered with shock and envy. Emo Xiantian smiled and moved, entering the miracle gate with ease as well. "It seems like these two are still competing after becoming friends." Nie Tian laughed. How could he not tell that the Tao and demon duo were still not convinced of each other's strength? In fact, this relationship of being friends and competitors was not bad. They could improve their friendship through friction. Taoist son and demon son are indeed powerful. Sheng Yichen and Zhuo Kunlun exchanged glances. Although they were praising them, their expressions were a little bitter. One must know that before Nie Tian and the Tao and Demon duo appeared, they had firmly occupied the top spot among the geniuses of the prison ceiling realm. Unfortunately, the appearance of Nie Tian and the Tao and Demon duo had instantly dimmed their brilliance. In fact, this was not a big deal, as their strength and talent were not as good as the others. A brief moment later, the number of people outside the Miracle Gate decreased significantly. Those who could enter had basically entered, while those who couldn't could only lament their inadequacies and leave immediately. Brother Xing, those two haven't made a move yet. They are waiting for you. Zhuo Kunlun took a deep glance at Song Rulong and Xian Yu as he joked. In fact, Sheng Yichen had long been observing in the dark. Song Rulong and Xian Yu had arrived a long time ago, but they did not make a move. It was obvious that they were waiting for him to make a move first. Brother Xing, I believe that guy is waiting to see you make a fool of yourself. Bai Zichio's lips twitched as he said. Song Rulong wanted to see Xing Yichen go first. It was obvious that he wanted to see if Xing Yichen could enter the Miracle Gate. If he was blocked by the Miracle Gate, Xing Yichen would be embarrassed. Since he wants to see, I will let him see to his heart's content. Xing Yichen took a cold glance at Song Rulong before he made his move and flew towards the Miracle Gate. Bang! Just as his figure touched the Miracle Gate, he heard a dull thud and was knocked back a few meters. Nie Tian's eyes narrowed as he did not expect Xing Yichen to be blocked by the Miracle Gate. Bang! Xing Yichen was not convinced and charged forward again, but he was still repelled. Xing Yichen, if you can't, then you can't. It's useless no matter how hard you try. Song Rulong crossed his arms and sneered. Xian Yu, who was standing beside him, had an ugly expression. She wanted to say something but did not speak. Bang! 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 Xing Yichen took a cold glance at Song Rulong as a ball of anger burned in his heart. He charged forward more than 10 times but was repelled every time. Damn it! He bellowed as his face turned red and ugly. The first time he charged, he clearly felt that the resistance was not strong. Why was it that the resistance was getting stronger and stronger? Brother Xing, if you really can't do it, just give up. It's just a Miracle Gate anyway. It doesn't matter if you can't enter or not. Zhuo Kunlun could not stand it anymore and advised Xing Yichen. No. Xing Yichen yelled in a loud voice, even if I die here today, I will enter the Miracle Gate. Bang! 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 As soon as he finished his sentence, he charged forward in a frenzy but was repelled every time. Xing Yichen, you're useless. You don't even have the right to enter the Miracle Gate. Song Rulong mocked him even more and laughed wildly. Now you know why you gave up on you and chose me. Chapter 47:59. The mocking and mocking voices were like sharp thorns stabbing into Xing Yichen's heart. He did not care about Song Rulong's mockery, but how could he disappoint the woman he loved? Xing Yichen, you're a useless piece of trash. Even if you try 1,000 times, 10,000 times, you won't be able to enter the miracle's door. Song Rulong became even more arrogant as he burst out laughing. Xian Yu's expression turned even uglier. She wanted to speak a few times, but stopped herself. Song Rulong, you've crossed the line. Zhuo Kunlun could not stand it anymore and yelled. So what if I've crossed the line? If you're not convinced, come and hit me. Song Rulong was even more shameless and arrogant. Zhuo Kunlun clenched his fists so hard that the veins on his face popped out, yet he did not dare to attack. He was not Song Rulong's opponent. Song Rulong. At the same time, a cold voice could be heard, like thunder, causing Song Rulong's laughter to come to a halt. This is between me and Xing Yichen. Are you going to interfere? Song Rulong stared at Nie Tian with fear on his face. Even his voice was trembling. He had witnessed how terrifying Nie Tian was. Even the thought of it still sent shivers down his spine. Shut up, Nie Tianling said coldly. His eyes were like sharp blades that pierced into Song Rulong's body. If you dare to utter another word, I will take your life. Gulp. Song Rulong's mouth opened wide, then closed right away. He could not help but gulp. He could feel the cold, murderous intent from Nie Tian. The latter's words were not a joke. Xing Yichen, take a deep breath and calm down. Nie Tian ignored Song Rulong and came to Xing Yichen's side. He said calmly, pretend that no one is here. There's only one person here. You are the sky and the earth of this place. Everything here is under your control. There is no miracle's door before you. It's just an illusion. Xing Yichen followed Nie Tian's instructions and took a few deep breaths to calm himself down. He slowly closed his eyes and sensed the aura of heaven and earth around him, gradually becoming one with heaven and earth. Then, he started to walk forward. Step by step, he slowly approached the miracle door. This time, when he approached Miracle's gate and took the last step, a strange scene occurred. The miracle barrier seemed to have disappeared. It didn't obstruct him at all. Xing Yichen's figure instantly disappeared into the miracle gate. This, Zhuo Kunlun and Bai Ziqiu were dumbfounded. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they wouldn't have believed it. How is this possible? Song Rulong was so shocked that he looked like a fool. His entire body seemed to be numb and he wasn't in a good state. Could it be that Nie Tian had some kind of magical power? With just a few simple words, Xing Yichen was able to enter the door of miracle? The corner of Nie Tian's mouth twitched, and he smiled faintly. Actually, this was nothing. It was just a matter of mentality. All he did was adjust Xing Yichen's mentality and rebuild his confidence in himself. Previously, Xing Yichen was extremely nervous in front of Xianyu. He was afraid that he would not perform well and disappoint his sweetheart. In addition to that, Song Rulong's sarcasm made him even more doubtful about his talent and strength. Nie Tian, on the other hand, only said a few words to restore Xing Yichen's confidence. That was all. Zhuo Kunlun, you should go in too. Nie Tian smiled faintly and said to Zhuo Kunlun. Zhuo Kunlun responded. After a few attempts, he too entered the miracle ground. Brother Nie, what about you? Bai Ziqiu looked at Nie Tian curiously. Is he not going to go in? I'll stay outside with you. Nie Tian smiled faintly, a calm expression on his face. Oh. Bai Ziqiu then realized that Nie Tian was going to stay behind to protect him. It was obvious that Nie Tian could tell that with his talent, he would not be able to enter the miracle ground. However, it would be dangerous for him to be alone, hence Nie Tian decided to stay behind. Nie Tian, wait until I come out from the miracle ground. I'll fight you again. Song Rulong gave Nie Tian a cold stare, and uttered the words before he turned around and entered the miracle ground. Xianyu did not enter right away. She waited for Song Rulong's figure to disappear before her eyes landed onto Nie Tian's figure. Are you Xing Yichen's friend? Xianyu hesitated for a long time before speaking. Nie Tian nodded calmly. Please say sorry to him for me. Xianyu's eyes trembled as she spoke again after a long pause. I'm sorry, Miss Xianyu. I can't help you. Nie Tian frowned and said, It's better if you explain it to Xing Yichen face to face. Bai Ziqiu was startled and stared at Nie Tian with a dumbfounded expression, as if to say, How could you not help me with such a simple matter? I understand. Xianyu was slightly disappointed and relieved at the same time. She then turned around and entered the miracle ground. Outside the miracle ground, only Nie Tian and Bai Ziqiu were left. Brother Nie, why didn't you help Miss Xianyu? Bai Ziqiu could not understand the situation and asked. I'll give Xing Yichen one last chance. Nie Tian let out a calm smile. What do you mean? Bai Ziqiu wore a blank expression, unable to understand Nie Tian's words. Nie Tian didn't bother to explain, but just smiled. He and Xing Yichen were indeed friends, but there were some things that only Xing Yichen could do. If he helped Xing Yichen, it would be meaningless. Next, Nie Tian and Bai Ziqiu waited outside the miracle ground. Soon, a few hours passed. However, there was no response from the miracle ground. None of the people who entered came out. It's been so long, why haven't they come out yet? Baiziccio muttered with a frown, feeling a little impatient. In the past, how long did it take for those who entered the miracle ground to come out? Nietian was also a little confused and could not help but ask. In the past, even high-level miracle grounds would take 1 or 2 hours for someone to come out. Baiziccio frowned and had an ominous feeling. Why hasn't anyone come out this time? Nietian stared at the miracle ground with a strange expression. Brother Nie, what's wrong? Baiziccio could not help but ask when he sensed Nietian's abnormality. Did you see something moving on the miracle's door? Nietian frowned, his eyes glowing as he stared at the miracle ground. Something? Baiziccio was confused. He stared at the miracle ground for a long time but did not see anything. Was there something wrong with his eyes, or was Nietian seeing things? Chapter 4760. There's nothing. Baiziccio stared at the miracle gate for a long time, but he still could not see anything. He could not help but look at Nietian with a puzzled expression, thinking that the latter was mistaken. There is indeed something. Nietian, on the other hand, was staring at the miracle gate with a strange light in his eyes. He could clearly see that there was a small snake-like thing constantly swimming on the miracle gate. Brother Nie, you aren't under an illusion, are you? Baiziccio carefully stared at the miracle gate, but still did not find anything. He asked with an ugly expression. It's a little snake. Nietian was very sure and described, a dark green snake with a horn on its head. It seems to be engraving some kind of rune on the miracle gate. Baiziccio was stunned, but then he suddenly thought of something and his expression suddenly changed. He said in surprise, "It's a cage dragon." Cage dragon? This time, Nietian could not help but be stunned and looked at Baiziccio in surprise. The little snake on the miracle gate was a cage dragon? How was this possible? Shouldn't a cage dragon be a huge and imposing dragon? Yes, it's a cage dragon. However, Baiziccio was very certain. He said excitedly, I've heard from the seniors in my clan that the cage dragon once appeared in the heavenly prison Dragon Gate. At first, it was in the form of a small cyan snake. Are you sure? Nietian frowned, a little doubtful. I'm sure. Baiziccio was very excited and nodded heavily. Then why can I see it but you can't? Nietian expressed his doubts with a suspicious expression on his face. This. Baiziccio suddenly felt a little embarrassed and said hesitantly, I heard from the seniors in my family that only those who are talented enough and recognized by the cage dragon can see it. If your talent is not strong enough and you can't get the cage dragon's recognition, then you can't see it. So that's how it is. Nietian's eyes darkened and he suddenly understood a little. But he was still a little puzzled and asked again, This cage dragon was not here just now, why did it suddenly appear on the miracle gate? Oh no! Baiziccio's expression suddenly changed and he directly cried out. What happened? Nietian was stunned. He did not know what had happened to make Baiziccio react like this. Cage dragon has appeared in the miracle gate. Could it be that he wants to close the miracle land? Baiziccio's expression changed drastically as he exclaimed in shock. What do you mean? Nietian furrowed his brows and asked. The land of miracles had just been opened, so how could it be sealed? Brother Nie, every time the land of miracles opens, it doesn't stay open for long. Baiziccio looked at Nietian and said sullenly, If the cultivators who enter the miracle land do not come out in time, they will be locked inside after the miracle land closes. What will happen if I'm imprisoned in the land of miracles? Seeing Baiziccio's nervous expression, Nietian also realized that something bad was about to happen. His expression immediately turned serious. I've heard from the seniors in my family that there were also people who were imprisoned in the land of miracles in the past. In the end, none of them came out alive. Baiziccio swallowed his saliva and said, Every time the land of miracles opens, the time is uncertain. Most of the people who are trapped inside either die in an accident or die of old age inside. Nie Tian's expression darkened as he stared at the caged dragon on the miracle gate. He paused for a long time before asking, "How can we stop the miracle gate from closing?" "I don't know." Bai Ziqiu shook his head. He had only heard of the opening and closing of the miracle gate, but he had no idea how to stop it from closing. Damn it! Nie Tian frowned. Thinking that Ji Keqian, Mo Xiantian, and the others were still inside, he no longer hesitated. He unsheathed the sky sword and slashed. Boom! The sword fell like a mountain, but there was only a muffled sound. The miracle gate did not budge at all. Boom! 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 Nie Tian's expression darkened. He attacked 3 more times, but he still could not shake the miracle gate. The mystical gate seemed to ignore the laws of time and space. It was fixed in place, and no matter what kind of impact it received, it would not budge at all. Brother Nie, the miracle gate represents the land of miracles. It is impossible for you to destroy it directly. Bai Ziqiu frowned and said in a deep voice. Then what should we do? Nie Tian's face darkened. Not only were his friends in the miracle gate, but there were also so many geniuses from the 7 prison realms. If they were all imprisoned in the land of miracles, what would happen to the 12 Sky Pillars project? I don't know what they encountered in the land of miracles. They are still not coming out. Bai Ziqiu said with an ugly expression, "The only way now is to enter the land of miracles and bring them out." "Alright." Without any hesitation, Nie Tian said, "Bai Ziqiu, you stay outside. I'll go in now." Brother Nie. Bai Ziqiu's eyes trembled. He did not expect Nie Tian, a non-prison realm cultivator, to be so decisive. One must know that being imprisoned in the land of miracles was equivalent to being buried alive. Could it be that Nie Tian was really not afraid of anything? What's wrong? Nie Tian's body froze and he turned back to look at Bai Ziqiu. Be quick. Bai Ziqiu said solemnly after he recovered from his daze. I know. With a faint smile, Nie Tian blurred into action and disappeared into the gate of miracle like a fish. Nie Tian, I hope everything goes well. Bai Ziqiu looked at the miracle gate and thought to himself. At the same time, in a dark canyon in the land of miracles, the stench of blood filled the air. In the canyon, blood-colored tentacles crisscrossed. From afar, it looked like a huge network of blood vessels and meridians. It was extremely terrifying. At this moment, dozens of cultivators were trapped in the blood-colored tentacles. 2 figures stood with their backs facing each other, looking around nervously. They were none other than the Tao and Demon duo, Tao Child Ji Keqian and Demon Child Mo Xiantian. Ji Keqian, how are you? Mo Xiantian's body was covered with wounds and blood was gushing out continuously. Don't worry, I'll definitely live longer than you. Ji Keqian laughed and disregarded his injuries. He swung the demon mandate sword and cut off a blood-colored tentacle that was charging at him. They did not know what the blood-colored tentacles were, but they were trapped in the valley as soon as they entered the land of miracles. Haha, as long as you don't die, I'll definitely not be in front of you. Mo Xiantian laughed heartily and slashed with the ghost weep saber. Wherever the saber's shadow landed, it was dripping with blood. However, the blood-colored tentacles did not stop. In fact, more and more were slashed, and after being cut off, 2 more appeared. Swoosh! Endless blood-colored tentacles surged over like a tide. The oppressive aura was suffocating and despairing. Are we really going to die here? Although Ji Keqian and Mo Xiantian were heroic, they could not help but sigh in the face of a life-and-death crisis. They were not afraid of death, but it would be too depressing if they died just like that. Chapter 4761. Heavenly Prison Dragon Sect, 5th Prison Heaven, Land of Miracles, Gloomy Canyon. The sky was filled with dazzling blood chi. Tao and Demon duo, Ji Keqian and Mo Xiantian stood side by side in a bloody battle. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The blood-colored tentacles surged like a tide and pressed toward the 2 of them. The scarlet aura enveloped the world. Kill! The two of them looked at each other and shouted angrily. Boom! Boom! The demon mandate sword and ghost weep saber attacked at the same time. The sword's shadow opened the way and the saber's shadow was like a mountain as it charged at the blood-colored tide. Bang! 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 The blood-colored tentacles shattered under the saber and sword, and the world was covered in blood. However, the blood-colored tentacles shattered and gathered again. There was no end to the tentacles. Soon, they gathered together in the air, and came crashing down again. Brother Emo, I'll open a path for you. You rush out. Jikachin's eyes darkened as he slashed the blood-colored tentacles in front of him. I, Emo Xiantian, am not someone who abandons my friends to live an ignoble life. Emo Xiantian laughed and the ghost weep saber let out a shocking cry, shattering countless blood-colored tentacles. Brother Mo, these blood-colored tentacles are endless. If this drags on, we'll all die here. Jikachin was burning with anxiety. His figure flashed and directly rushed over. Bang bang bang. Jikachin's figure was like a sword. Everywhere he passed, the blood-colored tentacles would shatter. He actually forcefully opened a path of blood in the boundless blood-colored sea. Jikachin! Emo Xuantian's eyes trembled as he roared and immediately rushed over. Brother Emo, this is all I can do for the last strike. At this moment, Jikachin turned to look at Emo Xiantian and smiled faintly. Then, his body shook and his blood chi soared into the sky. No! Emo Xuantian's expression changed. Jikachin was clearly burning his blood chi to erupt with the last strike in order to open a path of life. He wanted to stop it, but it was too late. Boom! Jikachin's sword momentum soared and instantly reached the extreme. The demon mandate sword slashed down fiercely. The sword light was released and the incomparably sharp sword chi turned into thousands of blades that swept everything. Bang bang bang! Countless blood-colored tentacles shattered, and the world seemed to have fallen into an endless blood red. At the same time, Jikachin passed out due to exhaustion. His body fell towards bloody like a broken leaf. Jikachin! Emo Xuantian's eyes turned crimson as he let out a loud roar. He completely disregarded everything and charged forward. Jikachin risked his life to open up a path for him, but he didn't even glance at it. If Jikachin died, then how could he live in peace for the rest of his life? Emo Xuantian's figure flashed over to Jikachin's side and hugged him. However, when he raised his head again, he saw that the sky full of blood-colored tentacles had gathered again, and they came crashing down. Damn it! Emo Xiantian roared furiously and slashed out with the ghost weep saber. However, it only caused the blood-colored tentacles to slow down slightly. It was unable to stop the pressure at all. Am I really going to die here? Emo Xiantian carried Jikachin on his back and charged left and right, but he couldn't break out of the blood-colored tentacles' encirclement. In the blink of an eye, the blood-colored tentacles closed in on them. The space for the two of them to survive was shrinking. Forget it. It seems like this is heaven's will. Emo Xiantian knew that it was useless to resist. He could only sigh dejectedly and close his eyes. To him, dying together with Jikachin might be a good ending. The blood-colored tentacles surged over like a raging tide. In the next moment, Jikachin and Emo Xiantian would be completely drowned. However, at this moment of life and death, Emo Xuantian's eyes suddenly opened. He could feel a vigorous and familiar aura appearing. Nia Tian. He suddenly raised his head and saw that the blood-colored tentacles above him were continuously collapsing. A path of survival was right in front of him. Above him, there was a figure as sharp as a sword. It was none other than Ye Tian. This is great. Emo Xiantian smiled in surprise and rushed over with Jikachin. Soon, they arrived beside Ye Tian. The sword aura around Ye Tian surged and forcefully opened up a survival zone. Any blood-colored tentacles that approached were all crushed. Emo Xiantian, what's going on? Nie Tian glanced at the unconscious Jikachin and asked in a deep voice. I don't know either. We were sucked into this canyon by a force the moment we came in. Emo Xiantian took a deep breath and his tensed face relaxed slightly. These blood-colored tentacles are extremely difficult to deal with. There's no end to them. Many people have already lost their lives to the blood-colored tentacles, and many others are trapped. Yes. Nie Tian nodded his head and activated his fiend eye to carefully observe the blood-colored tentacles. These tentacles look very similar to the meridians of a human body. It's extremely strange. Brother Nie, do you mean that these blood-colored tentacles are real meridians? Emo Xiantian was quite shocked. If these tentacles are meridians, wouldn't that mean that we've entered the body of a person? Perhaps they aren't real meridians but some kind of array formation based on the meridians of a human body. Nie Tian said in a deep voice, since these tentacles can't be severed, there's no point in continuing to entangle ourselves. Then what should we do? Emo Xuantian's eyes trembled. When Nie Tian appeared, he felt a lot more at ease. But now, could it be that even Nie Tian couldn't do anything about it? We have to find the core, which is the source of these tentacles. Only then can we completely destroy them, Nie Tian said in a deep voice. He waved his hand in the air and a starlight appeared, enveloping Emo Xiantian and Jikachin. This is the Heaven Shrouding Totem. It can protect you for a period of time. I'll go take a look and see what exactly these tentacles are, Nie Tian said and directly walked towards the blood-colored tentacles without waiting for Emo Xuantian's reply. Nie Tian, be careful. Emo Xuantian's heart trembled and he could only shout. Nie Tian retracted his sword aura and only left a layer of barrier around his body to prevent the blood-colored tentacles from entering his body. He followed one of the tentacles and quickly moved forward. As long as he reached the other side of the blood-colored tentacles, he might be able to find the source. The blood-colored tentacles danced wildly in the air, and the smell of blood assaulted his face, but Nie Tian didn't care at all. Soon, the blood-colored tentacles began to thicken. At the end of the tentacles was a huge ball of blood. The smell of blood and flesh soared into the sky, looking extremely terrifying. Above the huge ball of blood, countless blood-colored tentacles extended out like countless wild snakes. Such a scene was truly shocking. Even Nie Tian's heart inexplicably trembled. Indeed, there's an aura. Nie Tian calmed his mind and listened carefully. He could vaguely hear a faint voice coming from the ball of blood. Bang, bang, bang. The voice was very soft but very heavy, like a huge heart beating. Looks like it's here. Nie Tian couldn't help but let out a long breath after confirming that the core was within the ball of blood. He had to destroy this ball of blood and save everyone before the miraculous place closed. Chapter 4762. Nie Tian could not help but have a strange expression as he sensed the aura within the blood sphere. The faint sound of a heartbeat could be heard from within the blood sphere. It was as if this blood sphere was a living thing. Forget it. I don't care about that. Let's save everyone first. Nie Tian didn't have much time. He made up his mind and the sword chi around him swept out like a storm, sweeping toward the blood ball. Boom! Chi chi chi. With a loud sound, flesh and blood flew everywhere. The storm of sword chi was like a huge meat grinder, slowly moving forward, mincing the flesh and blood into pieces. At this moment, an incomparably shrill voice suddenly rang out. It was extremely ear-piercing, and it sounded like a child's wail. Mu Tian furrowed his brows in confusion. It was as if the scream had come from the blood ball. But at this time, he couldn't care too much. He could only completely crush the flesh first. Bang! The sword chi storm was extremely powerful. In the blink of an eye, it destroyed the blood ball with an unstoppable force. What is it? The instant the blood sphere shattered, a glowing red bead of blood appeared amidst the rain of blood, causing Nie Tian's expression to change. Without the slightest hesitation, Nye Tian's figure flashed, and he dispersed the blood rain with his sword chi before stretching out his hand to grab the blood pearl tightly. Zzzt zzzt zzzt. But just as he grasped the blood bead, an ear-piercing sound came from his palm, as if his flesh was being burned. Ouch! In the next moment, he suddenly came to his senses, and when he opened his palm to take a look, his palm was actually charred black. He quickly loosened his grip and enveloped the blood bead with his sword chi. What is this blood bead? It's so strange to be able to burn me. Nye Tian's brows were tightly knitted, and his expression was somewhat ugly. With the strength of his martial body, not to mention ordinary flames, even a temperature of more than 10,000 degrees would not be able to harm him. However, this blood pearl had only been in his grasp for a moment, and his skin had already been burned. This was simply too bizarre. And at this time, Mu Tian suddenly saw a strange runic pattern surging on the surface of the blood bead. It flowed continuously and then quickly disappeared. What happened? Nye Tian's face was gloomy. He used his divine soul to sense the blood bead. After confirming that there was no danger, he put it in his hand. Sure enough, this time, the blood bead did not have any reaction, and his hand was safe and sound. Let's head back first. Nye Tian looked around. The tentacles had disappeared, and in front of him was a huge canyon. He quickly returned the way he came. Nye Tian, Jikachin and Emo Xiantian were pleasantly surprised to see Nye Tian return. Of course, they knew that Nye Tian had saved them. Are you guys okay? Nye Tian smiled faintly. He couldn't help but ask when he sensed that Jikachin and Emo Xiantian's auras were slightly weak. I'm fine. The two of them looked a little embarrassed and shook their heads. They knew that Nye Tian did not intend to enter the Miracle Land at first. The reason he came in later was obviously to save them. The Land of Miracles is about to close. Let's leave first. Nye Tian said helplessly as he looked around. There were dozens of corpses lying around in the valley. This time, more than half of the people who entered the Miracle Land were dead or injured. It was a huge loss for the 12 Pillars plan. Okay. Jikachin and Emo Xiantian agreed and quickly arrived at the exit of the Miracle Land with everyone. In the blink of an eye, everyone left the Miracle Land, leaving only Nye Tian alone to look around. Why is this place so strange? Nye Tian frowned and looked around. He couldn't see anything wrong, but he felt that something was strange. Let's leave first. Seeing that the miracle door was about to close, Nye Tian could only leave temporarily. After walking out of the miracle door, Nye Tian heaved a sigh of relief. Nye Tian, many thanks for your help. Jikachin and Emo Xiantian expressed their gratitude to Nye Tian. Are Xing Yichen and the rest all right? Nye Tian nodded. When he suddenly thought of Xing Yichen and Zhua Kunlun, his expression changed. Don't worry, they are fine. They just lost consciousness due to overexertion. Jikachin and Emo Xiantian brought Xing Yichen and Zhua Kunlun out and handed them over to Bai Ziqiu. That's good. Nye Tian heaved a sigh of relief. He looked at everyone and sighed helplessly. This time, entering the Land of Miracles had resulted in heavy casualties, and those who were lucky enough to return alive were either severely drained of energy or severely injured. Hopefully, it wouldn't affect the 12 Pillars plan. Nye Tian, you could have saved everyone. Why did you wait until the end to enter the Miracle Land? At this moment, an angry voice resounded. It was actually berating Nye Tian. Nye Tian frowned and looked at the person cold. It was Tsang Rulong. Tsang Rulong, do you have a conscience? Your life was saved by Nye Tian. How dare you criticize him? Bai Ziqiu, who was not far away, took a step forward and protested for Nye Tian. It's true that he saved me. But so what? Tsang Rulong was shameless and said cold, we are all going to participate in the 12 Pillars plan. We can be considered as partners. Nye Tian clearly has the strength to save more people. However, He delayed entering the miracle land. He clearly wants us to die in there. Sang Rulong, if I really wanted you to die in there, would you still be standing here talking to me? Nye Tian's expression sank. His sharp gaze was like a blade as he stared cold at Sang Rulong. Sang Rulong felt the murderous intent. His eyes trembled and his face turned pale. He was speechless. He had seen Nye Tian's strength with his own eyes. If Nye Tian wanted to kill him, it would be easier than killing an ant. Ungrateful thing, if you dare to say anything bad about Nye Tian again, I will kill you. Emo Xuantian's expression sank. He stared at Sang Rulong and said cold. He did not know who Sang Rulong was and did not want to be enemies with him. However, Nye Tian was someone he respected. Now that he had saved his life, how could he allow others to slander him? Sang Rulong's face stiffened when he felt Emo Xuantian's aura. He did not even dare to breathe. Brother Mo, this dog is too dirty. Be careful not to dirty your hands by killing him. Jikachin sneered and mocked Sang Rulong. Sang Rulong did not dare to talk back. He could only watch unwillingly. Let's go. Nye Tian did not want to bother with him. He got Bai Ziqiu to leave with Xing Yichen and Zhuo Kunlun. Jikachin and Emo Xiantian agreed at the same time and prepared to leave with Nye Tian. The six of them moved quickly and left in the blink of an eye, leaving a group of people looking at each other in dismay. No one expected that the most amazing person in this trip to the Heavenly Prison Dragon sect would be a cultivator from the Punisher world. After leaving the Miracle Land, Nye Tian and his group arrived at the top of the fifth hell. At this moment, Nye Tian could clearly feel that the space barrier between the fifth and sixth hell was much stronger than before. Chapter 4763. At the top of the fifth hell. Brother Nye, the aura of this space barrier is too strong. I'm afraid I can't get through it. Bai Ziqiu said dejectedly as he sensed the aura of the space barrier. Entering the fifth hell was already his limit. It was almost impossible for him to enter the sixth hell. Don't force yourself. Just try your best. Nye Tian patted Bai Ziqiu's shoulder and smiled. Actually, with his strength, he was completely capable of helping Bai Ziqiu enter the sixth purgatory, but such help was meaningless. Furthermore, the higher the level of the heaven prison, the more dangerous it would be. Forcefully bringing Bai Ziqiu along wouldn't do him any good. Brother Bai, let's prepare to enter the sixth hell. Xing Yichen and Zhuo Kunlun looked at Bai Ziqiu and said. Then, they started to enter the sixth hell. Although they were more talented than Bai Ziqiu, they weren't much stronger. It wouldn't be easy for them to enter the sixth hell. However, Emo Xiantian and Jikachin were very talented, so it should be very easy for them to enter the sixth hell. Brother Bai, let them enter the sixth hell first. We'll look around the fifth hell. Seeing that Xing Yichen and Zhuo Kunlun still needed some time to enter the sixth hell, Nye Tian decided to look around the fifth hell. He hadn't had the chance to take a good look at the Heavenly Prison Dragon Gate since he had been here for so long. All right. With these words, Bai Ziqiu followed Nye Tian around the fifth prison heaven. The hell energy here is indeed much denser than the outside world. For these prison realm martial artists, cultivating here will be much easier. Nye Tian thought to himself as he sensed the hell energy in the air. Brother Nye, look. The Emperor Rainbow Flower. Right at this moment, Bai Ziqiu was pleasantly surprised, and he shouted loudly. The Emperor Rainbow Flower. Nye Tian's eyes followed Bai Ziqiu's gaze, and sure enough, he saw a seven-colored vortex floating in midair in the distance, like an auspicious cloud. However, if one looked carefully, the Emperor Rainbow Flower was more like a bud that was about to bloom. It was multicolored and extremely dazzling. Just by looking at it from afar, it made people feel relaxed and happy. The Emperor Rainbow Flower. Emperor Rainbow Flower. I never expected an Emperor Rainbow Flower to appear in the Heavenly Prison Dragon Gate. Bai Ziqiu, on the other hand, was extremely excited. He kept on talking as he stared at the Emperor Rainbow Flower, his eyes burning with greed. "Brother Bai, what is this Emperor Rainbow Flower?" Seeing Bai Zichou's reaction, Nye Tian could not help but ask. "Brother Nye, you might not know this, but the Emperor Rainbow Flower is one of the 3 wonders of the Heavenly Prison Dragon sect." Bai Zichou was incredibly excited. He took a deep breath and calmed himself down. He explained, "According to legend, the Emperor Rainbow Flower is the sacred flower that blooms at the entrance of the Heavenly Prison Dragon sect's Holy Land. He has been absorbing the caged dragon chi and infernal energy over the years and slowly fusing them together to form the power of the Imperial Rainbow." Power of the Emperor's Rainbow. Nye Tian squinted his eyes slightly. It sounded like this force was extremely mysterious and powerful. "Brother Nye, do you know what the power of the Monarch Rainbow is?" Bai Zichou squinted his eyes as a strange flicker flickered in them. Before Nye Tian could reply, he continued, "Not only can the power of the Monarch Rainbow increase a cultivator's strength, but it can also increase their talent." Increase their talent. Upon hearing these words, Nye Tian's expression immediately changed, and he was extremely shocked. A cultivator's talent was determined by their birth. Although hard work could make up for a part of it, a cultivator with weak talent could not be compared to a cultivator with great talent. Take Bai Zichou for example. His talent was top-notch, but he was still weaker than Xing Yichen and Zhuo Kunlun, not to mention the Taoist and Demon Gemini. There were many rare treasures in the world that could increase a cultivator's strength, but it was extremely rare to find one that could directly increase a cultivator's talent. No wonder Bai Zichou was so excited when he saw the Emperor Rainbow Flower. Meanwhile, many people crowded around the Emperor Rainbow Flower when they saw it. The appearance of the Emperor Rainbow Flower will definitely cause everyone to fight for it. I'm afraid there will be a bloodbath. Bai Zichou calmed down a lot when he saw this scene. His tone was filled with intense disappointment. The Emperor Rainbow Flower was one of the 3 wonders of the Heavenly Prison Dragon sect. It only appeared once in thousands of years and was considered a rare treasure. How could he, Bai Zichou, have the qualifications to encroach on such a sacred object? "It's the Emperor Rainbow Flower." At that moment, Ji Kachin and the others also came over and looked at the Emperor Rainbow Flower in surprise. Ji Kachin and Mo Xiantian were extremely talented and strong. It was obvious that they coveted the Emperor Rainbow Flower. "Look, the Emperor Rainbow Flower is blooming." Xing Yichen was also excited as he looked at the Emperor Rainbow Flower and exclaimed. Nye Tian focused his eyes and saw that the 7-colored stamen was slowly blooming. Whoosh! The petals opened one by one and the 7-colored light spread in the void, making everyone feel like they were in an illusion. "The Emperor Rainbow Flower is blooming! The Emperor Rainbow Flower is blooming!" The surrounding crowd cheered when they saw this scene. They were overjoyed. At that moment, some of the cultivators who had entered the 6th purgatory and even higher levels of the purgatory realm had returned. They seemed to have sensed the aura of the Emperor Rainbow Flower and descended with terrifying auras. These cultivators who could enter the higher levels of the purgatory realm before others were stronger in both strength and talent. Their return would undoubtedly make the battle for the Emperor Rainbow Flower even more intense and cruel. "Even he is back." Nye Tian frowned when he saw Yi Wushang of the 7-Night Underworld race from afar. It seemed that the Emperor Rainbow Flower was indeed a supreme treasure. Even a super genius like Yi Wushang was attracted here. The 7-Night Underworld race has returned. It's basically impossible for others to obtain the Emperor Rainbow Flower. Bai Zichou also noticed the 7-Night Underworld race's cultivators and sighed helplessly. Everyone in the 7 purgatory realms knew how powerful the 7-Night Underworld race was. Anyone who dared to compete with the 7-Night Underworld race in front of the Emperor Rainbow Flower would have to be prepared to die. So what if it's the 7-Night Underworld race? As long as Brother Nye is willing to compete, we might have a chance. Emo Xuantian's eyes darkened as he said cold. Upon hearing his words, Jikachin and the others immediately fixed their eyes on Nie Tian. Indeed, Nie Tian's strength was enough to fight a Night King. The others of the 7-Night Underworld race, such as Jikachin and Emo Xiantian, could also put up a fight. If Nie Tian wanted to participate in the battle for the Emperor Rainbow Flower, he might stand a chance. Unfortunately, Nie Tian did not show any interest in the Emperor Rainbow Flower. In fact, ever since Nie Tian entered the Heavenly Purgatory Dragon Sect, he did not care about these supreme treasures. He even entered the miraculous land to save people. Do you all want the power of the Emperor Rainbow Flower? Nie Tian's eyes darkened as he scanned by Zichio and the others. Chapter 4764. Nie Tian glanced at Emo Xiantian, Jikachin, and the others. How could he not see their desire for the Emperor Rainbow Flower? They nodded simultaneously. This was not the time to show off. There was nothing to be embarrassed about wanting the power of the Emperor Rainbow Flower. Since that's the case, let's fight for it. Nie Tian smiled faintly as his eyes shone with a hint of burning desire. He was not interested in the Emperor Rainbow Flower, but he was interested in the 7-Night Underworld tribe. He wanted to know how strong the 7-Night Underworld tribe was, especially the mysterious Night King Yi Wushang. It would be interesting to fight him. Great! Emo Xiantian and the others were excited. With Nie Tian joining them, their chances of winning were much higher. At this moment, as the Emperor Rainbow Flower bloomed, many people began to fight for it. The Emperor's Rainbow Flower, floating lights and falling shadows, blossomed in the air with a 7-colored radiance. Ripples of light spread out, intoxicating everyone. Get out of my way! The Emperor Rainbow Flower is mine! An enraged roar rang out as a burly fellow, his aura shaking the heavens, unleashed all of his hell power. He was like an exploding mountain as he tried to take the Emperor Rainbow Flower for himself. I think you are the one who should get out of my way. Another voice sounded. It was none other than the genius of the dark prison realm, 8-clawed Qin Yuan. Bang! 6 claws appeared behind Qin Yuan. A horrifying aura shook the heavens and the earth. He sent out a palm strike and sent that cultivator flying. Brother Qin, let me help you. On the other side, Song Rulong also flew out and approached Qin Yuan. He wanted to form an alliance with the latter to take the Emperor Rainbow Flower. Help me? Are you worthy? Qin Yuan sneered and slapped Song Rulong with his claws. He, Qin Yuan, is a super genius of the dark prison realm. Who do you think you are to be on the same level as him? Qin Yuan, you. Song Rulong steadied himself after being slapped away. He glared at Qin Yuan viciously but did not dare to get any closer. This guy is humiliating himself. Seeing this, Xing Yichen felt very comfortable and couldn't help but sneer mockingly. Song Rulong prided himself on being a genius, but he didn't expect that in the eyes of the even more talented Qin Yuan, he was merely a piece of trash. The 7-Night Underworld race is eyeing me like a tiger watching its prey. If I go there now, I'll just become a living target. Nie Tian smiled faintly, signaling Jikachin and the others not to be impulsive and to wait patiently. Yes. Jikachin nodded in agreement with Nie Tian's words. Most people were blinded by the Emperor Rainbow Flower and didn't even think about it. The geniuses of the 7 prison realms all knew of 8-clawed Qin Yuan's notoriety. Many of them were eager to fight him, but none of them dared to act rashly. Qin Yuan, how about I become your ally? Just at this moment, a majestic voice rang out, following which a black-robed cultivator descended from the sky. His aura was as vast as the sea. Just by standing there, he caused everyone to feel an intense pressure. This fellow's aura is actually not the slightest bit weaker than Qin Yuan. Nie Tian's eyes narrowed as he turned to look at Xing Yichen, who was standing beside him, and asked, "Who's that?" If I'm not wrong, he should be the #1 genius of the Hell Realm, Yan Wuxian. Xing Yichen said, Rumor has it that this fellow reached the Heaven Wonder Realm at a very young age. I think he broke the record for the youngest Heaven Wonder Realm cultivator in the 7 prison realms. So it's him. Jikachen's expression changed, and he couldn't help but exclaim. Brother Ji, you know this person as well? Xing Chen asked curiously. He didn't expect the heavenly sex Dao child to know Yan Wushan. Yes. Jikachen nodded and said, I've heard of the Yama clan of the Hell Realm from my master. This clan has a terrifying bloodline that has been passed down through the generations of Yama kings. Back then, an expert of my heavenly Dao sect once encountered the previous Yama king and died with a single palm strike. Speaking of which, the heavenly Dao sect and the Yama clan have quite a grudge. Emo Xiantian, who was standing next to him, said, I've also heard of the Yama clan. One of my martial uncles was killed by the Yama king. Nie Tian's eyes narrowed and he couldn't help but look at Jikachen and Emo Xiantian. He didn't expect the heavenly demon sect and the heavenly Dao sect to have a grudge with the Yama clan. So it's Brother Yin. I couldn't ask for more of an ally like you. Chen Yuan's reaction was completely different from before when he saw Yan Wushan. He was completely fawning now. He had long heard of Yan Wushan's brutality and didn't dare to offend him. That's good. Yan Wushan replied coldly and stepped forward. With every step, a giant seal would appear beneath his feet, causing the air to tremble. He had always been proud and arrogant. If he wasn't afraid of the 7-Night Nether clan, he wouldn't have allied with Chen Yuan. You too, how about I join your alliance? Right at this moment, another voice sounded. Then, an azure-robed figure landed with a black trail behind him. What's that smell? Why does it smell so bad? Everyone's expression changed when this person appeared. Many people smelled the strange smell in the air. It was as if flesh was being burned. It's him. In next to no time, someone confirmed that the burnt smell was emitted from the azure-clothed warden, and they couldn't help but exclaim in shock. This person's aura is terrifying. Everyone looked at the azure-robed hell. His body was faintly emitting a black aura, as if his flesh was being roasted by fire. It was extremely strange. Who's this guy? Nie Tian's expression darkened. He couldn't help but ask in surprise. He felt that the azure-robed hell's aura was even more terrifying than Yan Wushan's. It seemed like the geniuses of the 7 great purgatory realms were quite strong. If I'm not wrong, he should be the genius of the purgatory realm, Bai Tu Jin. Xing Chen answered again with an ugly expression. He had originally thought that his competitors were only from the 7-Night Nether clan. But now, it seemed that there was another powerful competitor besides the 7-Night Nether clan. It's Bai Tu Jin. Didn't he die in the endless purgatory? Zhua Kunlun exclaimed in surprise. He had heard that Bai Tu Jin was the most outstanding genius of the purgatory realms Bai Tu family in the past 1,000 years. He had displayed an extremely powerful bloodline talent at a young age and was seen as the future of the Bai Tu family. Several years ago, Bai Tu Jin had entered the forbidden land of the purgatory realm, the endless purgatory. It was said that he had died there. Who would have thought that he would appear here today? Walking out of the endless purgatory, Bai Tu Jin's strength must have been reborn. Bai Tu Jin, another expert. Nie Tian's eyes narrowed. Chen Yuan, Yan Wushan, and Bai Tu Jin. The alliance of these 3 was indeed a powerful enemy. Brother Nie, what should we do? Emo Xiantian couldn't help feeling anxious as he looked at Nie Tian. There's no rush. Let's see what the 7-Night Nether clan will do first. Nie Tian smiled faintly and wasn't in a hurry to act. Yi Wushang was still waiting for an opportunity. He wouldn't make the first move. Chapter 4765. Dark Prison's Chen Yuan, Hell's Yan Wushan, and Purgatory's 100 Slaughters Ash. If the 3 worked together, they could faintly fight against the 7-Night Nether race. Nie Tian looked at Yi Wushang not far away. He didn't know what this Night Monarch of the 7-Night Nether race would do. The three of us will work together and share the Emperor Rainbow Flower. Yan Wuxian stepped forward and released his aura, intimidating everyone. If anyone is unconvinced, come out and challenge me. Hua. As soon as he finished speaking, an invisible force was released. Like a ripple, it forced everyone to retreat. The people of the 7 prison realms all knew of Yan Wuxian's ferocious name. Seeing his domineering aura, no one dared to step forward. However, Yan Wuxian's eyes flashed with a cold light as he stared at the 7-night nether race in the distance. His words weren't meant for the crowd to hear, but for the 7-night underworld race. As long as the 7-night nether race didn't step forward, no one else would. Yan Wuxian thought that although the 7-night nether race was strong, his alliance with Chun Yuan and 100 Slaughters Ash was not weak either. If the 7-night nether race didn't want to fight to the death, they wouldn't provoke them. More importantly, the 7-night nether race's physique was special. The Emperor Rainbow Flower didn't have much of an effect on them. Yan Wuxian, the Emperor Rainbow Flower doesn't belong to the three of you. It's not right for the three of you to take it for yourselves. A moment later, a deep voice sounded and a black-robed cultivator stepped forward. His aura surged and was no weaker than Yan Wuxian's. Dark Prison's #1 genius, Mo Guchen. Everyone looked at the black-robed cultivator. Someone recognized him and couldn't help but exclaim. The 7-night nether race didn't step forward, but Dark Prison's Mo Guchen stepped forward. This is interesting. Xing Yichen looked at Mo Guchen and couldn't help but smile. Brother Xing, do you know this person well? Mo Xiantian frowned. He felt an extremely hidden baleful aura from Mo Guchen that made him feel uneasy. Mo Guchen is a person who rose to fame in the Dark Prison in recent years. It is said that he only used 2 years to defeat all the geniuses of the Dark Prison's younger generation and won the title of the #1 genius of the Dark Prison. Xing Yichen's eyes narrowed slightly. He looked at Mo Guchen with some fear. He sighed and said, "About half a year ago, I followed the elders of my clan to train and was fortunate enough to spar with Mo Guchen. Unfortunately, he didn't even need to make a move to defeat me. This person is so strong?" Mo Xuantian's expression changed. He was extremely shocked. Although Xing Yichen's strength was not the best, he was definitely not weak either. The fact that Mo Guchen was able to defeat Xing Yichen without making a move showed how powerful he was. Isn't that 8-clawed Chun Yuan from the Dark Prison? How is his strength compared to Mo Guchen's? Jikachin instantly became interested, and he couldn't help but ask. Chun Yuan is indeed very strong. However, he is much weaker when compared to Mo Guchen. I heard that Chun Yuan had been defeated by Mo Guchen more than once. Xing Yichen said with a smile. Is this Mo Guchen really from the Dark Prison? At this moment, Nie Tian suddenly asked. He looked at Xing Yichen strangely. Yes. Xing Yichen was stunned. He did not understand what Nie Tian meant, but he still nodded. Strange. Nie Tian frowned, feeling very confused. He could feel the aura of a star soul from Mo Guchen. This meant that the latter was a star venerate. A star venerate actually appeared in the prison realm? Brother Nie, do you know Mo Guchen? Xing Yichen asked when he saw Nie Tian's strange expression. I don't know him. Nie Tian shook his head, but his eyes were fixed on Mo Guchen. Mo Guchen, you are too arrogant. Before Yan Wuxian could speak, Chun Yuan took a step forward and shouted, Do you want to challenge the three of us? He knew that he was not as strong as Mo Guchen. He was worried that Yan Wuxian and Bai Tu Jin would go back on their words and join forces with Mo Guchen. I, Mo Guchen, am not afraid of the three of you. As expected, Mo Guchen was arrogant. He replied coldly after being provoked by Chun Yuan. What arrogance! Bai Tu Jin's face was cold, but a fiery aura surged around him. He had long heard of Mo Guchen's name and wanted to fight him for a long time. I heard that you are the #1 genius of the Prison of Darkness. Today, let me see if you are worthy of your title. Yen Wuxian's eyes were gloomy as he spoke in a cold tone. His battle intent surged and a huge seal appeared under his feet. The void around him trembled. What a powerful aura! Everyone felt the incoming pressure. They felt as if they were falling down. Their expressions changed drastically and they all retreated. Yen Wuxian was indeed the #1 genius of the prison realm. The Yama clan that shook the 7 prison realms was indeed powerful. The gates of hell are open. Mo Guchen, do you dare to enter? Yen Wuxian's aura was ferocious. He took a step forward and a door of darkness appeared in front of him. It was dark and boundless as if it was connected to the darkest abyss. There is no door in this world that I, Mo Guchen, do not dare to enter. Mo Guchen sneered. He was not afraid at all. He took a step forward and his figure turned into a ray of light as he entered the gates of hell. Is Mo Guchen crazy? He even dares to enter Yama's hell. I heard that Yama's hell is the bloodline barrier of the Yama clan. Once you enter, you will be devoured by the evil spirits of hell. Not even your bones will be left. Mo Guchen is indeed too young. He fell for Yen Wuxian's provocation. What a pity for a genius. Everyone discussed quietly. They clearly felt that Mo Guchen would definitely lose after entering Yama's hell. Oh no! Xing Yichen's expression also changed. He couldn't help but shake his head. Is this Yama's hell very strong? Nie Tian frowned and looked at Xing Yichen. He could already feel the powerful aura of Yama's hell. He couldn't help but worry for Mo Guchen. Yama's hell is a bloodline barrier. As long as Yen Wuxian doesn't die, the barrier can't be opened. Xing Yichen nodded and said, I heard that once someone enters Yama's hell, they won't be able to come out. Mo Guchen's chances of survival are very slim. Amen. Jikachin also nodded and said, that senior of my heavenly Dao sect died in Yama's hell. Mo Guchen has 1 foot in Yama's hell. If he wants to come out alive, it will be as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Nie Tian's gaze darkened. The uneasiness in his heart grew stronger. He didn't know who Mo Guchen was, but he had the aura of an astral soul. Just based on this point, he couldn't just stand by and watch. If what Xing Yichen and Jikachin said was true, Nie Tian would have no choice but to act at the crucial moment. Mo Guchen, since you've stepped into my Yama's hell, you can obediently wait for your death. Yen Wuxian laughed loudly. Yama's baleful aura surged out from his body and engulfed Mo Guchen. Chapter 4766. Hua! In the void, Yama's baleful aura surged like a raging wave, blotting out the sun as it pressed down on Mo Guchen. What a terrifying aura! Everyone trembled as they felt the power of Yama's baleful aura. This is the first time I've seen the real hell of Yama. I didn't expect it to be so strong. Jikachin's eyes were gloomy as he muttered in shock. The geniuses of the Hell Realm are indeed worthy of their reputation. Mo Xiantian frowned. He was also shocked. Brother Nye, I don't think Mo Guchen can even take 1 attack from Yen Wuxian. Xing Yichen said when he saw Nie Tian's worried expression. Not necessarily. Nie Tian's expression was tense as he said in a deep voice. Although he didn't know why, he trusted Mo Guchen blindly and felt that the latter couldn't be so simple. If Mo Guchen stepped into Hell of Yama without any preparation, how different would he be from a fool? Break! At this moment, Mo Guchen made his move. With a low roar, the shadow of a giant elephant appeared behind him and charged forward. Its powerful aura forcefully broke through Yama's baleful aura. How is this possible? Inside Hell of Yama, Yen Wuxian was forced to take a few steps back. After stabilizing himself, he stared at Mo Guchen in shock. He had heard of Mo Guchen's name and knew that the latter was the #1 genius of the Hell of Darkness. However, he didn't expect Mo Guchen to be this strong. Is this all the famous Hell of Yama is capable of? Mo Guchen looked at Yen Wuxian and sneered disdainfully. Arrogant! Yen Wuxian was infuriated after being looked down upon in public. He roared and a huge amount of Yama's baleful aura condensed in the void. In the blink of an eye, it formed a giant skull that opened its mouth to swallow Mo Guchen. What a powerful aura! Mo Guchen frowned. His eyes were filled with unconcealable nervousness. Although he looked calm on the surface, his entire body was tense. He had heard of Hell of Yama's strength. The reason why he stepped in without hesitation was not only because he was young, but also because he wanted to challenge himself. Bang! In the next instant there was a muffled sound in the void. Mo Guchen's figure was sent flying like a small boat in a storm. What a powerful strength! When the onlookers saw this, they were all shocked. The strength of the Hell of Yama King was beyond everyone's expectations. Even someone as strong as Mo Guchen would find it hard to break free after falling into the Yama Hell. Yen Wuxian was a young martial practitioner, but his strength was even more terrifying than some of the famed experts who had been famous for a long time. Is it about to end? Xing Yichen's eyes were trembling, and his lips were a little dry. Mo Guchen, no matter what trump card you have, it is best for you to use it as soon as possible. Nie Tian frowned and muttered. He had a feeling that Mo Guchen was not as simple as he appeared to be. But what exactly was Mo Guchen's trump card? The Yama Hell enchantment was extremely unique. Once someone entered it, they would have to kill Yen Wuxian first to break it. Or, he could break the barrier from the outside. However, Dark Prison's Chun Abyss and Purgatory's 100 Slaughters Ash were eyeing Mo Guchen and Yen Wuxian's battle covetously. Die! Yen Wuxian's sinister voice rang out from the Yama Hell as he clenched his fist in the air. Boom! Instantly, boundless baleful aura of the Yama Hell converged and surged towards Mo Guchen like a raging tsunami. Mo Guchen was enveloped by an invisible force and was unable to move. He could only forcefully endure it. Oh no! Nie Tian couldn't help but frown when he saw this. His expression turned extremely ugly as he took a step forward, preparing to act at any moment. Brother Nie, Jikachen, Mo Xianting, Xing Yichen, and the rest all sensed Nie Tian's abnormality and turned to look at him. What was the relationship between Nie Tian and Mo Guchen? Why did Nie Tian suddenly become so anxious when Mo Guchen was in danger? Tian Sha, come out! But at this moment, Mo Guchen suddenly roared and stretched his hand into the air, as though he was summoning something. Tian Sha! Hearing these two words, Nie Tian's expression instantly changed. Dual Absolute Astral Souls, Tian Sha Lone Star. Among the forbidden astral souls, the strongest was the Lonely Sky Astral Soul. Purple Myrtle Sovereign descends. Below the Lonely Sky Astral Soul were the Dual Absolute Astral Souls, Tian Sha Lone Star and Slaughter Vanquisher Wolf. The Slaughter Vanquisher Wolf Astral Soul had already been fused by Tang 13. The Tian Sha Astral Soul had yet to appear. Who would have thought that one of the Dual Absolute Astral Souls, the Tian Sha Lone Star, would actually appear in one of the 7 great prison realms? What exactly was going on? Boom! In the next instant, as the sound of Mo Guchen's voice faded, a huge hole suddenly appeared in the air, revealing a space-time vortex. What is this? Everyone exclaimed in shock, completely clueless as to what had just happened. What exactly did Mo Guchen do? Why would a space-time vortex suddenly appear? Hua! Just as everyone was bewildered, a strange black light appeared from within the space-time vortex. After which, a black sword flew out with incredible speed and a majestic aura, aiming for the Yama Hell. It's a sword! Everyone exclaimed, unable to believe the scene before them. Who would have thought that the space-time vortex would suddenly explode and a black sword would appear? The black sword's aura was extremely majestic. Wherever it passed, a storm of space-time would appear, as though the heavens and earth were collapsing. What a terrifying aura! Everyone's eyes trembled uncontrollably as they were all stunned by the black sword's aura. How is this possible? Chen Yuan and Bai Tu Jin were originally guarding Yan Wuxian, but when they saw the scene before them, they too were dumbfounded. Boom! At this moment, the huge black sword had already fallen, heavily bombarding the King Yenluo's infernal barrier. The entire enchantment shook violently, as though it was a battleship that was unable to withstand the impact of a violent storm. This is impossible, impossible! Yan Wuxian's eyes trembled, and the Yama baleful qi around him rumbled like a tidal wave, but it was obvious that it was being suppressed. The Yama hell's enchantment was about to be broken. Boom! Above the enchantment, a loud explosion suddenly sounded. The black sword had torn a hole in the enchantment. Boom, boom, boom! Instantly, the Yama baleful qi could no longer hold on, and like a broken dam, it escaped from the enchantment. The trapped Mo Guchen immediately regained his ability to move, and a smile appeared on his face. With a wave of his hand, the black sword directly broke through the enchantment and landed in his hand. Boom! At this moment, a tremendous amount of power burst forth from his body. It was as though a black dragon was surging forth from his body. His entire person was like a demon god of swords, and a terrifying aura surged out from him, emitting a powerful murderous aura. Chapter 4767. Boom, boom, boom! In the void, a terrifying aura surged around Mo Guchen's body. Black runes surged endlessly and charged around his body like black flames. What a powerful aura! Everyone looked at Mo Guchen and could not help but feel fear in their hearts. Their expressions all changed. Although Mo Guchen was known as the #1 genius of Dark Prison, no one expected him to be this powerful. He could even be compared to the Night King of the Seven Knights underworld race. How can this guy be so powerful? Chen Yuan, who was also a genius of Dark Prison like Mo Guchen, paled. He had fought with Mo Guchen many times. Although he lost every time, he did not lose badly. At least, Chen Yuan felt that his strength was similar to Mo Guchen's. But now, the power that Mo Guchen had displayed had far exceeded his expectations. Could it be that he was hiding his strength when we fought before? Chen Yuan did not believe that Mo Guchen could make such a huge leap in such a short period of time. Therefore, he was more inclined to believe that Mo Guchen was hiding his strength. Impossible! This is impossible! Absolutely impossible! At this moment, Yan Wuxian, whose Yama hell boundary was broken, seemed to have gone mad. His long hair flew in the wind as he screamed. Yama hell was the strongest bloodline boundary of the Yama family. How could it be broken? Who exactly was Mo Guchen? Yan Wuxian, do you still want to fight? Mo Guchen held the black sword in his hand. His aura was powerful and terrifying. Just by standing there, he gave off the feeling of a mountain pressing down on them. But he did not push his luck. Instead, he did not want to fight Yan Wuxian anymore. Perhaps, in his opinion, Yan Wuxian, who had lost his Yama hell boundary, was no longer worthy to be his opponent. Tian Sha, why is your aura different? In the distance, Nye Tian looked at Mo Guchen. He felt that the latter's aura was slightly different from Tian Sha's. He suddenly remembered that when he returned to the 9 regions, Tian Sha had appeared and imprisoned Mo Rushi in the Star Forbidden Space. Tian Sha wanted to obtain the Star Origin Stone and fight with the Scarlet Life Loyal Heart. But later, the Heaven Dao Sacred Pavilion and Ni Yuan Blackroot appeared, forcing Tian Sha and the Scarlet Life Loyal Heart to work together. In the end, Tian Sha gave in and took Tang 13 with him. At this moment, Nye Tian was unsure if this Mo Guchen in front of him was the Heaven Sha, because his aura was different from the Heaven Sha he knew. Mo Guchen, you destroyed my King of Hell, I will kill you. Yan Wuxian's eyes had long since turned red from the battle. His eyes flashed with a cold light. He actually wanted to continue fighting, and he even wanted to kill Mo Guchen. Do you want to die? Mo Guchen's eyes were cold, and his killing intent was surging. He didn't want to kill Yan Wuxian at first, but if the latter didn't know what was good for him, He didn't mind killing him directly. Yan Wuxian, you are no match for him. Step aside. But at this moment a figure stood out. He glanced at Yan Wuxian and spoke in a cold tone that left no room for rejection. Hundreds slaughtering ashes. Everyone's eyes widened. The person who stood out was none other than Yan Wuxian's ally, Bai Tu Jin of the Purgatory Realm. Clearly, he didn't want to see Yan Wuxian die at Mo Guchen's hands. Yes. Yan Wuxian looked at Bai Tu Jin deeply. Even though he was a little unwilling, he calmed down and finally nodded and stepped aside. People from the Purgatory Realm, come at me. Mo Guchen's eyes narrowed. He glanced at Bai Tu Jin coldly, and a look of disdain appeared on his face. You want to die? Bai Tu Jin had never been looked down upon like this before. He was instantly enraged. He bellowed and clenched his fist in the air. A ball of fire appeared and condensed into a sword of fire. Immediately, a wave of heat spread out and filled the void. Everyone felt as if they were in a sea of fire. Good sword. Nie Tian's eyes narrowed. He looked at the flame in Bai Tu Jin's hand and exclaimed inwardly. He had the flame of primal chaos in his body. After sensing the aura of the sword of fire, he felt an indescribable restlessness. Could this sword be the legendary heart of purgatory? Bai Zichio's expression changed when he saw the sword of fire in Bai Tu Jin's hand. Back when Bai Tu Jin entered the endless purgatory, no one thought he would be able to do well. However, he eventually walked out of the endless purgatory. After he came out of the endless purgatory, there was a rumor that he had brought the heart of purgatory out of the endless purgatory. Who would have thought that the rumor was true? The heart of purgatory? Nie Tian frowned and couldn't help but look at Bai Zichio. The latter's reaction meant that the heart of purgatory was not an ordinary item. Brother Nie, the endless purgatory is a forbidden place in the purgatory realm. Legend has it that the endless purgatory was formed after the fall of a fire ancestral dragon in the primordial era. Bai Zichio's eyes were dark and he was clearly nervous. He explained, the heart of purgatory was formed from the fire ancestral dragon's tongue. It contains the power of fire that can burn everything. The heart of purgatory could burn everything. Even a peak heaven marvel's cultivator would find it hard to endure its terrifying power. I see. Nie Tian's eyes narrowed. He couldn't help but worry for Mo Guchen. It was still doubtful whether Mo Guchen was the heavenly fiend Starlord. Moreover, the battle between him and Yan Wuxian seemed easy, but in reality, it was a Pyrrhic victory. Although Yan Wuxian was defeated, Mo Guchen was also heavily injured. He just didn't show it. Mo Guchen, let me see how many slashes you can endure under my heart of purgatory. Bai Tu Jin shouted coldly in a domineering manner. He slashed out with his sword, causing the power of fire to howl through the air. Then, it exploded in the air, instantly forming a sea of fire that pressed down on Mo Guchen. Boom, boom, boom. Rolling waves of fire surged in the void like a sea. The roaring heat waves seemed to want to burn the world. Everyone retreated under the impact of the waves of fire. They revealed expressions of disbelief. Although everyone was mentally prepared, they didn't expect Bai Tu Jin's strength to be this strong. Even a peak heaven marvel's cultivator would not dare to be careless against such a terrifying fire. Mo Guchen was covered in flames. Black runes shone on his body and turned into a shield that surrounded his body to resist the impact of the fire. At the same time, he retreated. Bang! However, the power of the fire was so strong that even the rune shield could not withstand it. In the blink of an eye, it broke and Mo Guchen was sent flying. In the rolling waves of fire, he was like a leaf that was on the verge of collapse. Oh no! When Nie Tian saw this, he couldn't help but frown. He knew that the situation was not good. He had expected Mo Guchen to lose, but he didn't expect that he would lose so quickly. The number one genius of Dark Prison is only SOSO. Bai Tu Jin laughed wildly. Killing intent surged in his eyes. The heart of purgatory slashed down again. He clearly wanted to kill Mo Gu-chen. Chapter 4768. Boom! In the sky, the heart of purgatory descended. The surging sword intent turned into a boundless sea of fire. The tongues of fire spat out as if they wanted to devour the world. Once such a terrifying flaming sword aura landed, Mo Gu-chen's fate would be certain to be death. Hua! At this critical moment, a ball of starlight appeared in the sky and landed on Mo Gu-chen's body. It turned into a shield and enveloped him. 8. Desolation Sword. Almost at the same time, a sword shadow appeared. It was also a fiery sword. Like a giant beast, it rolled forward and blocked the sword of purgatory. Feeling the impact, Bai-Tu-jin could barely withstand it. He could not help but take a few steps back before he could stabilize himself. He exclaimed in surprise. His eyes flashed with cold light as he looked coldly at the silver-haired figure nearby. If you want to kill him, you have to ask me first. Nie Tian stood beside Mo Gu-chen. The corner of his lips curled up as he spoke. He felt Mo Gu-chen's breathing. It was stable. He was much more at ease. Why did you save me? Mo Gu-chen took a deep breath. His face was still pale. He asked in a deep voice, his tone extremely cold. You are injured. You should step back. Nie Tian glanced at him and replied. Mo Gu-chen frowned. He stared at Nie Tian for a long time before finally stepping aside. Brat, who are you? Flames raged around Bai-Tu-jin's body, but his eyes were as cold as ice as he stared at Nie Tian. It was as if he wanted to tear the latter into pieces before burning his bones into ashes. Only then would his hatred be appeased. This was the first time someone had dared to meddle in his business. It's just a competition. Why do you have to kill? Nie Tian's reply was extremely calm. It was obvious that he did not take Bai-Tu-jin seriously. When Mo Gu-chen defeated Yen Wuxian, he did not have any killing intent. But Bai-Tu-jin succeeded in one move. It was as if he had killed someone. After all, the heavenly prison Dragon Gate was opened for the 12 Sky Pillars project. In other words, the people here were likely to become his teammate. Bai-Tu-jin had such a strong killing intent. Who would feel at ease being teammates with him? Should I kill someone? Kill who? What does it have to do with you? Bai-Tu-jin didn't know who Nie Tian was, but he didn't sense any powerful hell energy from the latter. He couldn't help but feel puzzled and spoke in a cold tone. Should I save him? Save who? What does it have to do with you? Nie Tianling laughed. His words were clearly mocking Bai-Tu-jin. You're courting death. Bai-Tu-jin was instantly enraged. The heart of purgatory soared into the sky, and terrifying purgatory energy surged out, causing the void to tremble. Your aura isn't bad, but it's a pity that it's useless. Nie Tian's face was filled with disdain as he unsheathed the sky sword. A sharp sword chi pierced through the air, shattering the enormous momentum in the air. How is this possible? Bai-Tu-jin retreated several steps, his face flushed red and extremely unsightly. He simply could not believe that the person in front of him, who looked even younger than him, actually had such strength. That was just a warning. If you still don't know what's good for you, don't blame me for being merciless. The corner of Nie Tian's mouth pulled into a cold smile, and his eyes surged with murderous intent. You! Bai-Tu-jin's expression changed, and his heart inexplicably shuddered. Under Nie Tian's gaze, he actually felt like a little lamb that was about to fall into the mouth of a tiger. Moreover, Nie Tian's murderous intent was too strong, and he could not help but want to retreat. Nie Tian, do you want to monopolize the Emperor Rainbow Flower? At this time, Chen Yuan suddenly walked up and loudly reprimanded. Monopolize? When Nie Tian heard these two words, he could not help but feel that it was laughable. He looked at Chen Yuan coldly and said, Didn't the three of you join forces just now to monopolize the Emperor Rainbow Flower? Why did you lose now? You're saying that I'm monopolizing the Emperor Rainbow Flower? Don't you think that you're very laughable? As the last word fell, his eyes were as sharp as a blade as they locked onto Chen Yuan. What a terrifying aura! Chen Yuan's expression suddenly changed, and he hurriedly avoided Nie Tian's gaze. In that instant, he felt as if he had fallen into a bottomless abyss. A deep sense of helplessness made him despair. He had fought with Nie Tian before, so he naturally knew how powerful the latter was. Lord Yi Wang, are you going to keep watching? However, Chen Yuan did not give up. Instead, he looked at the distant Yi Wushang and shouted. Yan Wushan had been defeated, and Bai Tujin was no match for Nie Tian. Thus, the only people present who could stop Nie Tian were the 7-Night Underworld race. It was obvious that Chen Yuan wanted to use the 7-Night Underworld race to suppress Nie Tian. The 7-Night Underworld race is not interested in the Emperor Rainbow Flower. Yi Wushang frowned and replied coldly. Then, he turned around and left with the 7-Night Underworld race. Chen Yuan, the 7-Night Underworld race can't be relied on anymore. Why don't you come yourself? Let me see just how powerful those 8 claws of yours are. Nie Tianling sneered mockingly. Nie Tian, you. Chen Yuan's expression was unsightly, but he did not dare to fight with Nie Tian. Since you don't dare to fight, then scram. Nie Tian could not be bothered to waste his breath. He shouted, and his voice echoed in Chen Yuan's ears like a clap of thunder, forcing him to retreat. Chen Yuan, Yan Wushan, let's go. Bai Tujin, however, was tactful. After giving Nie Tian a hard look, he turned around and left. Chen Yuan and Yan Wushan did not dare to stay and immediately followed after him. Brother Nie, Bai Tujin is a vicious and vengeful person. You've offended him, so he will definitely not let this matter rest. Bai Ziqiu came to Nie Tian's side and looked at the backs of Bai Tujin and the others with a worried expression. It's better for him to behave himself in front of me. Nie Tian smiled. He did not care about Bai Tujin at all. Although Bai Tujin was a top genius in the 7 prison realms, he was far from being a threat to Nie Tian, who was in the 9th level Heaven Enlightenment realm. Bai Ziqiu, you guys enter the Emperor Rainbow Flower. Nie Tian glanced at Bai Ziqiu, Sheng Yichen, and the others with a faint smile. What about you, brother Nie? Jikachin was confused when he saw that Nie Tian had no intention of entering the Emperor Rainbow Flower. The Emperor Rainbow Flower could directly increase a cultivator's martial Dao talent. Why was Nie Tian not interested in such a rare treasure? I'll stand guard outside for you. Nie Tian smiled faintly, not minding at all. This, all right. Everyone was a little embarrassed, but how could they resist the temptation of the Emperor Rainbow Flower? They nodded and entered the Emperor Rainbow Flower. Mo Guchen glanced at Nie Tian as if he had something to say, but he did not say it. In the end, he still entered the Emperor Rainbow Flower. The trip to the Heavenly Prison Dragon sect isn't important. The key is the 12 Heavenly Pillars plan. I have to gather as many people as I can believe in. Nie Tian murmured to himself as he looked at the people inside the Emperor Rainbow Flower. Jikachin, Mo Xiantian, and the others were all companions he could trust. Their increase in talent and strength would be a great guarantee for the 12 Heavenly Pillars plan. What does the 12 Heavenly Pillars have to do with Donghuang Jingrong? Nie Tian took a deep breath. The doubts in his heart grew stronger. He had a vague feeling that he was getting closer to Donghuang Jingrong. Chapter 4769. Prison Sky Dragon Sect, 5th Prison Sky. Congratulations, everyone. Nie Tian congratulated Mo Guchen, Bai Ziqiu, and the others as they walked out of the Emperor Rainbow Flower. He could sense that their auras had indeed improved. Thank you, Brother Nie. Without you, I would never have had the chance to enjoy a sacred item like the Emperor Rainbow Flower. Bai Ziqiu thanked Nie Tian solemnly, his face filled with gratitude. Brother Bai, you're too kind. We're all friends. Nie Tian smiled and patted Bai Ziqiu's shoulder. Friends. Emoguchen, however, let out a cold laugh. He glanced at Nye Tian and said, "I'm not your friend." Emoguchen charged to the top of the 5th prison sky and entered the 6th prison sky. This guy really doesn't know what's good for him. Bai Ziqiu frowned. He could not stand Emoguchen. Nye Tian had saved Emoguchen and allowed him to enter the Emperor Rainbow Flower. Not only did Emoguchen not thank him, he even had such an attitude. Let him be. Nye Tian, however, didn't seem to mind. Bai Ziqiu wanted to say something but was stopped by Xing Yichen. Xing Yichen could tell that the relationship between Nye Tian and Emoguchen was not ordinary. However, Emoguchen did not seem to know Nye Tian at all. It was strange. The group did not waste any time and immediately arrived at the top of the 5th prison sky. Jikachen, Emo Xiantian, Xing Yichen, and Zhuo Kunlun easily passed through the spatial barrier. After absorbing the energy of the Emperor Rainbow Flower, their talent and strength had improved significantly. Even Bai Ziqiu, who was the weakest among them, entered the 6th prison sky after a few attempts. Needless to say, Nye Tian blurred into action and passed through the spatial barrier. When he arrived at the 6th prison sky, Nye Tian felt that the hell energy in the space was even stronger. Brother Nye, entering the 6th prison sky is already my limit. I can't enter the 7th prison sky. Bai Ziqiu looked at Nye Tian with a grateful expression and said, "Next, I'm going to find a safe place to cultivate. You guys can go to the higher levels of hell." "Yes." Nye Tian nodded slightly and told Bai Ziqiu to be careful. After all, Bai Ziqiu's talent was limited. It was thanks to the help of the Emperor Rainbow Flower that he was able to enter the 6th hell. The 6th purgatory was already his limit. It wouldn't be good to force him any further. The hell energy here was dense, and cultivating here was much faster than in the outside world. As long as he found a secluded place and cultivated by himself, he should be fine. "Brother Nye, the two of us are going to take a look at other places. Farewell." Jikachen and Emo Xiantian took the initiative to look at Nye Tian and said with a smile, "All right." Nye Tian naturally wouldn't stop them. He was happy to see the Dao and Demon twins working together. "What about you two?" After the Dao and Demon twins left, Nye Tian looked at Xing Yichen and Zhuo Kunlun and directly asked, "Thank you for taking care of us along the way, Brother Nye. We would like to walk on our own for the rest of the journey." Xing Yichen and Zhuo Kunlun exchanged glances and nodded. They had been taken care of by Nye Tian in the Heavenly Prison Dragon sect, and he had even saved their lives. However, if they continued like this, they would lose the meaning of training in the Heavenly Prison Dragon sect. Therefore, they decided to walk the rest of the journey on their own. No matter which level of the Heavenly Prison Dragon sect they ended up in, they would have no regret. "Alright, the two of you try not to separate. Take care of each other." Nye Tian smiled faintly and nodded. Since the two of them wanted to explore with their own strength, he naturally wouldn't stop them. "Brother Nye, thank you." The two of them thanked him in unison, and without further delay, they turned around and left. "I'm the only one left. That's good too, I can directly go to the 9th purgatory." In the blink of an eye, there was no one around Nye Tian. He couldn't help but smile bitterly. However, this way, he wouldn't have any burden and could directly go to the 9th purgatory. With that thought, he moved and quickly arrived at the top of the 6th purgatory. The space barrier between the 6th and 7th purgatory is actually so much stronger than the space barrier between the 5th and 6th purgatory? Nye Tian wasn't in a hurry to enter. Instead, he sensed it and was quite shocked. There was only a difference of one level between the 5th and 6th purgatory, but the strength of the space barrier differed greatly. Based on his initial estimation, the space barrier in front of him was at least twice as strong as the previous one. The Heavenly Prison Dragon sect had a total of 9 purgatories, and the 9 purgatories were further divided into major levels. 1 to 3 was a level, 4 to 6 was a level, and 7 to 9 was a level. Now that Nye Tian wanted to enter the seventh purgatory, it seemed like he was jumping between levels, but in reality, he was going from the second level to the third level, which was equivalent to directly crossing 3 levels of purgatory. Although this space barrier is strong, it can't stop me. Nye Tian smiled faintly. The chaotic flame appeared in his hand and turned into a spacetime blade. He gently swung it down and directly cut the space barrier. He took a step forward. When his foot landed, he was already in the seventh purgatory. The purgatory power here is so much stronger than in the sixth purgatory. As soon as he arrived in the seventh purgatory, Nye Tian felt the intense purgatory power rushing toward him. Unfortunately, Bai Ziqiu couldn't come here. Otherwise, cultivating here would be much faster than in the sixth purgatory. Let's go to the eighth purgatory. Nye Tian looked around. There were less than 10 people in the seventh purgatory, and there was nothing else worth paying attention to. Hence, he decided to go straight to the eighth purgatory. Soon, he arrived at the top of the seventh purgatory. You want to enter the eighth purgatory? At this moment, an extremely cold voice was heard. Yes. Nye Tian nodded and turned to look at Emoguchen. He had already noticed the latter, but he ignored him. He didn't expect the usually cold Emoguchen to take the initiative to speak to him. The eighth purgatory is extremely dangerous. Are you sure you're ready? Emoguchen frowned and asked cold. It's okay, I just want to look around. I won't be staying in the eighth purgatory for too long. My target is the ninth purgatory. Nye Tian said with a faint smile. The ninth purgatory? Emoguchen's gaze froze, then he laughed. But his laughter was cold and even a little disdainful. Is there a problem? The corners of Nye Tian's mouth twitched, but he wasn't angry. You think you're the number 1 genius of the 7 purgatories just because you defeated Bai Tu Jin? Emoguchen retracted his cold smile and said, Plus, so what if you really are the number 1 genius of the 7 purgatories? The 9th purgatory is the forbidden ground of the heavenly prison dragon sect. How can anyone enter it? Until now, the heavenly prison dragon sect has opened countless times, but those who have entered the 9th purgatory are less than 5. Don't you think it's funny that you want to enter the 9th purgatory? Then, he turned around as if he didn't want to talk to Nye Tian anymore. But he didn't leave right away. Funny? Nye Tian twitched his lips and asked back, You think it's funny? Chapter 4770. Nye Tian glanced at Emoguchen and realized that the latter was only boasting when he thought he would not be able to enter the 9th hell. Emoguchen stared at Nye Tian in silence for a while, before he spoke. Even if you can enter the 9th hell, do you know what kind of place it is? What do you mean? Nye Tian frowned when he saw that Emoguchen was trying to say something. The 9th hell was the highest floor of the heavenly prison dragon gate. What else could it be? Judging from Emoguchen's expression, he seemed to be hinting that the 9th hell was hiding some kind of secret. The 9th hell is extremely dangerous. I advise you not to go. Emoguchen glanced at Nye Tian and said in a cold tone after a long silence. He turned around and left after finishing his sentence. What is he trying to say? Nye Tian frowned and felt even more confused. It was obvious that Emoguchen had something to say, but he did not say it, as if it was a taboo topic. What exactly was it that made Emoguchen so afraid? Screw it, if the 9th hell is hiding some kind of secret, I'll know once I go in. Nye Tian decided not to overthink it. He took a deep breath and used the chaos flame to tear open the space barrier of the 8th hell, successfully entering it. The presence of the hell force here is even stronger. As soon as Nye Tian entered the 8th hell, he immediately felt the surrounding hell force becoming stronger. Bang! However, before he could stabilize his footing, he suddenly felt a strong force coming from above him, causing him to frown. A intense sword into the sky. Bang! A muffled sound rang out as a huge boulder over Nye Tian's head exploded and turned into dust that scattered in all directions. Nie Tian raised his head and was stunned when he looked into the sky. Floating boulders were everywhere in the eighth hell. The smaller ones were a few meters wide, while the bigger ones were dozens of meters wide. It was a spectacular sight from afar. However, after taking a closer look, Nie Tian soon discovered that although the boulders were arranged in a messy manner, they seemed to be arranged in a certain pattern, as if they were some sort of formation. Is this the danger that Mo Guchen mentioned? Nie Tian frowned and muttered to himself. Mo Guchen had just said that the eighth hell was equally dangerous. Could it be that the stone array in front of him was the danger he was talking about? The quality of these stones is extraordinary. They are much harder than ordinary refined iron. Nie Tian didn't let his guard down. After sensing for a long time, he couldn't help but frown. The huge stone formation before them was extremely huge. It was impossible to see through it in a short period of time. However, if he were to force his way through the formation, he did not know what kind of dangers he would face. With Nie Tian's strength, it would be no problem for him to block the boulder. But in this way it would definitely consume a great deal of his energy. If other dangers were to appear, it would not be good. Furthermore, Nie Tian had a faint premonition that this huge stone array was extremely likely not as simple as it looked on the surface. Give it a try. Nie Tian looked for a long time but couldn't find any clues. In the end, he decided to take the risk. He took a deep breath and a pair of starry wings appeared on his back. His speed was extremely fast. He stepped on the boulder like a cheetah leaping in the mountains. In the blink of an eye, he arrived at the middle area of the eighth hell. Did I overestimate this huge stone array? Nie Tian couldn't help but frown when he wasn't attacked by the boulder. However, he didn't dare to stop and continued to rush toward the top of the eighth hell. Boom! After a while, just as Nie Tian was about to reach the top of the eighth hell, he suddenly felt a terrifying pressure approaching, causing his eyes to darken. It's here after all. He turned around and saw a huge boulder hurtling toward him at an extremely fast speed. Without hesitation, he swung the sky sword and shattered the boulder. Boom! 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 However, just as he swung his sword, thunderous sounds came from all around him. All the boulders around him started moving and pounced at him like giant beasts. 8 barren slashes. Nie Tian's eyes darkened slightly. He grunted and slashed with his sword. Sword intent surged in all directions and countless boulders were instantly shattered. If this is the only formation, it's far from enough to stop me. The corner of Nie Tian's lips curled up. He moved and rushed toward the sky. Bang! However, at that moment, a muffled sound was heard. Before he could react, he felt his entire body sinking and falling straight down. After falling for a few hundred meters, Nie Tian finally stabilized his body with the help of the starry wings. He looked up into the sky and the scene that entered his eyes made his expression change. He saw a stone golem that was a few hundred meters tall staring straight at him with 2 pitch-black eyes. These boulders have automatically formed a stone golem. Nie Tian's eyes darkened. He immediately understood and his expression darkened. It seemed like he did not underestimate the giant boulder formation at all. Luckily, his martial body was strong enough to withstand the punch from the stone golem. Otherwise, even if he managed to survive, he would at least lose a layer of skin. Roar! Meanwhile, the stone golem let out a furious roar like a wild beast, as if it was provoking Nie Tian. Very well. Nie Tianling let out a laugh and said, I would like to see how a pile of rocks like you is going to stop me. Following this, his body was surrounded by sword intent as the 9th layer Heaven Illusion Force was unleashed. Streams of Heaven Illusion sacred force surged in all directions like a surging tide. Bang! 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 Instantly, the boulders within 100 meters were unable to withstand the impact of the Heaven Illusion sacred force and shattered into pieces. World-devouring sword dragon. Nie Tian let out a groan and slashed forward. A terrifying sword intent surged out and formed a giant dragon that was 100 meters long in the sky, charging straight at the stone golem. Bang! At the same time, the stone golem threw a punch at him with the force of a landslide. Bang! In the next instant, the two forces collided, resulting in a deafening explosion. It felt like the entire eighth hell was shaking. Although the stone golem was extremely sturdy, it was unable to withstand the force of the sword dragon and shattered into pieces in the air. My chance. Nye Tion's eyes darkened. He flapped his wings and dashed toward the stone golem like a ray of light. Around him were a few more stone golems that were even larger than before. They were all charging at him. Open. Nye Tion, however, didn't give them the slightest chance. The primal chaos flame in his hand condensed into a sharp blade that ripped open the spatial ward of the eighth hell. Then, like a fish, he leaped into the ninth hell. As soon as Nye Tion entered the ninth hell, he could feel a powerful force pressing down on him, causing his expression to change. However, in the next moment, before he could react, he felt another force appearing and blocking the overwhelming pressure. Don't talk. He steadied himself, and was about to see what was going on when he heard a soft voice coming from behind him. Knight Emperor. Nye Tion did not turn around. He could tell that it was the Knight Emperor Yi Wushang's voice. The Knight Emperor of the Seven Knights underworld tribe had arrived at the ninth hell before him. Chapter 47-71. Nye Tion turned around and looked at Yi Wushang in surprise. He didn't expect Yi Wushang to come to the ninth hell before him. Yi Wushang didn't say anything and pointed above him. Nye Tion looked up and his expression flickered. He saw that above his head, there was actually a transparent barrier, like a mirror, clear and sparkling, without the slightest impurity. The strangest thing was that there were people on the shield. And there were many of them. Why would there be people at the top of the ninth hell? Yi Wushang still didn't say anything. He waved his hand and gestured for Nye Tion to follow him. The two of them moved quickly and soon arrived at a valley, entering a cave. Phew! Yi Wushang carefully sensed and let out a long breath after confirming that there were no abnormalities. Yi Wang, what's going on? Nye Tion was surprised as he stared at Yi Wushang and asked, why would there be so many people in the ninth hell? Brother Nye, do you know where the ninth hell of the heavenly prison dragon sect is? Yi Wushang asked in a deep voice. His tone and eyes were filled with a hint of playfulness. I don't know. Nye Tion shook his head. Mo Guchen had asked him the same question before, which made him feel puzzled. But now that Yi Wushang asked again, it undoubtedly meant that there was another world in the ninth hell. Do you know who the people we see above us are? Yi Wushang didn't answer and asked the second question. Yi Wang, what are you trying to say? Nye Tion frowned. He wasn't interested in listening to Yi Wang's riddles and asked directly. Mystic Realm. Yi Wushang's eyes dimmed. After a few seconds of silence, he said two words. Mystic Realm. Nye Tion frowned and his expression flickered. It was the first time he heard of these two words. Could it be another world outside of the heavenly sacred realm like the prison realm? The person who appeared above us is a profound world martial artist. Yi Wushang seemed to have guessed what was on Nye Tion's mind, he said. The mystic world is a world above the heaven's saint world and the prison realm. The overall strength of the mystic world's martial artists is above the heaven's saint worlds and the prison realm's martial artists. You know about the sacred heavens realm? Nye Tion's eyes slightly narrowed, and he looked at Yi Wushang in surprise. He didn't expect the other party to know about the all-heavens sacred world. The sacred world of all heavens and the seven great purgatory realms were independent worlds. The people of the two worlds did not know of each other's existence. Only a small number of people knew about both the saint realm and the prison realm. Aren't you from the sacred world? Yi Wushang nodded. His reaction was very calm. You said that the Xian world is above the saint realm and prison realm. What do you mean? Nie Tian's eyes darkened slightly, but he did not continue to ask. Instead, he turned his attention to the profound world. He was very curious about what kind of world the profound world was. From what Yi Wushang said, it seemed that the profound world was a much larger world than the sacred heavens realm and the 7 great purgatory realms. I don't know much about the profound world. I only read some records about it in an ancient book. Yi Wushang took a deep breath and said, I learned from the book that the 9th purgatory of the heavenly prison Dragon Gate is a passage that connects the profound world and the prison realm. Out of curiosity, I entered the 9th purgatory. After that, I met you. A passage between the 2 realms? Nie Tian couldn't help but frown after listening to Yi Wushang's words. It seemed that Yi Wushang wasn't sure that the person on the mirror-like barrier was from the profound world. Everything was just his guess. There's someone. At this moment, Yi Wushang suddenly sensed something and his expression changed. Nie Tian frowned, but he didn't feel anything strange. Whoosh. In the next moment, Nie Tian opened his demonic eye. Just when he wanted to sense, he saw a figure dashing into the valley like a ray of light and entering the cave. Bang! But then, the figure crashed into the stone wall of the cave and fell down. She's injured. Only then did Nie Tian see the figure clearly. It was a green-clothed woman, covered in wounds and on the verge of death. Save me. The green-clothed woman looked at Nie Tian and Yi Wushang and spoke with difficulty, but she used up all her strength and fainted. Nie Tian and Yi Wushang exchanged a glance, speechless. What's going on? Where did this woman come from? Why is she so heavily injured? Save her. Yi Wushang's eyes trembled. He took a step forward and endless prison power gushed out, enveloping the green-clothed woman and stabilizing her breathing. There's someone. At that moment, Nie Tian sensed that a few powerful auras were rapidly approaching the valley. His expression flickered. His expression changed. I'll hide her first. Yi Wushang immediately reacted and brought the green-clothed woman into the depths of the cave. Nie Tian glanced at the ground and immediately burned the bloodstains. It's here. A few moments later, several figures appeared in the valley. One of them shouted as he looked around the valley. They were young men, led by a young man in luxurious clothes who looked to be about 26 or 27 years old. He had a handsome face and an elegant temperament. He looked refined and courteous, giving off the impression of a modest gentleman. Young master, Green Spider's aura disappeared here. Beside the elegant man, a servant with a mustache spoke carefully, afraid that he would displease the elegant man. She's heavily injured. She can't have run far. Lin Qingyuan said in a deep voice. The coldness in his eyes diluted the elegant temperament on his face, making him look somewhat fierce. Young master, there's a cave over there. At this moment, someone found the cave and shouted in surprise. Come out. Lin Qingyuan raised an eyebrow and said coldly. As soon as he finished speaking, a silver-haired figure slowly walked out from the cave. It was none other than Nie Tian. Lin Qingyuan saw that the person who walked out was an unfamiliar face. The latter's aura was also something he had never seen before. His face darkened and he asked, Who are you? Why are you here? I'd like to ask you the same question. Nie Tian smiled and replied in an indifferent tone. He could feel a vast and powerful aura from Lin Qingyuan's body. But this aura was something he had never seen before. It was an aura that was different from Saint Power and Hell Power. Could it be that this guy in front of him was the mystic world martial artist that Yi Wushang mentioned? Kid, how dare you speak to our young master like that? Do you want to die? Without waiting for Lin Qingyuan to speak, the mustached man next to him took a step forward, and with a roar, he threw a palm at the air. Bang! Nie Tian frowned and reacted quickly. His entire body lit up with astral soul armor and blocked the palm. But his figure also took a few steps back because of this. This guy, he's so strong. Nie Tian steadied himself and looked at the mustached man with a gloomy gaze. He was shocked. His cultivation was at level 9 heavenly perception, but his martial body was comparable to a pinnacle heavenly martial expert. The mustached man looked ordinary, but he was able to knock him back with a palm. His strength was terrifying. Chapter 47-72. Heavenly Prison Dragon Gate, 9th Prison Heaven, outside of a cave. Yo! The mustached man couldn't help but exclaim in surprise as he repelled Nietian with a palm strike. Brat, I didn't expect you to be so strong. I didn't expect you to be so strong either. Nietian smiled as he stared at the mustached man with a cold glint in his eyes. Die. How could the mustached man not hear the provocation in Nietian's words? He roared in anger and struck out with his palm again, causing the void around him to sink. Break. Nietian's eyes narrowed as he unsheathed the sky sword. The air was immediately filled with killing intent as the sword chi turned into waves that swept everything in its path. Bang! In the next moment, a muffled explosion sounded in the air. The mustached man clearly didn't expect Nietian to be so strong. He screamed and retreated a few meters before he could stabilize himself. Nietian, however, didn't move in the slightest. He was wreathed in fierce sword chi, which was as sharp as a sword. How is this possible? The mustached man stared at Nietian in shock and disbelief. You are a martial artist from the heavenly saint realm? Lin Qingyuan could tell that Nietian's aura was different from the prison realm's martial artists. You are the legendary martial artists from the mystic world? Nietian's eyebrows furrowed. Lin Qingyuan's cold, arrogant, and sinister gaze made him very uncomfortable. A martial artist from the heavenly saint realm actually knows about the mystic world after coming to the prison realm. Lin Qingyuan looked at Nietian as if he were sizing up an interesting, lowly being. With a smile, he muttered, "Interesting. Young master, there's no need to waste time with this brat. Let me kill him." The mustached man's face was gloomy. The profound energy in his body was boiling, and there was a burning aura in the surrounding space. You are no match for him. Back off. Lin Qingyuan stopped the mustached man and said with a cold expression. His voice was very cold, but when it fell into the mustached man's ears, it was like angry thunder. The mustached man was very unwilling, but he didn't dare to disobey Lin Qingyuan, so he could only retreat to the side. What? The servants can't do it, but you, the young master, are going to do it personally? Nie Tianling stared coldly at Lin Qingyuan, not afraid in the slightest. Instead, he taunted him. Kid, your strength is not bad. I don't want to kill you. Lin Qingyuan wasn't angry at all. He only said lightly, I'm chasing after a woman. Her aura has disappeared from here. As long as you hand her over, I can spare your life. What if I don't hand it over? Nie Tian didn't explain anything and just sneered. As expected, Lin Qingyuan's group was here to chase after the injured green-clothed woman. With Lin Qingyuan's arrogant personality, even if Nie Tian denied it and said that he had never seen the girl in green before, the former would not believe him. Since that was the case, he might as well admit it. He also wanted to see how strong this young master from the legendary Xian world was. There is a limit to my patience. Don't try to challenge me. Lin Qingyuan's face turned cold, and his eyes were filled with killing intent. We're going to fight anyway. Why bother with all this nonsense? Nie Tian sneered again. The sky sword swept through the air, and the sword light shone brightly like a waterfall. You're courting death. Lin Qingyuan's face darkened. He couldn't control himself anymore. With a roar, Xian Qi surged, and mysterious runes appeared in the air. In his hand, a long saber glowed with purple light. What a strong saber aura! Nie Tian's eyes darkened. He felt an invisible saber aura, suppressing his sword aura. This young master from the Xian world was indeed not simple. One saber and I'll take your life. Lin Qingyuan snorted and swung his saber. The saber aura spread out 100 meters, and the momentum was like a tsunami, crashing towards Nie Tian. Nie Tian's eyes darkened. The sky sword moved against the momentum, and the sword aura swept out. Bang! The saber was forceful, and the sword was sharp. The moment the saber and the sword collided, a loud explosion was heard. The saber aura and the sword aura turned into endless waves, sweeping through the surroundings. Nie Tian's body swayed and he staggered back a few steps. Behind him, half of the mountain wall had been forcefully cut open, forming a mountain stream. On the other hand, Lin Qingyuan didn't move at all. Instead, the saber aura was boundless, and it surged like a raging river. But his face was dark, and he couldn't hide the shock in his eyes when he looked at Nie Tian. Even though he didn't use his full strength in that attack, it was enough to kill a Sky Martial Realm cultivator. Nie Tian was only a Sky Perception Realm cultivator, but he was able to block the attack without being injured. This was beyond his expectations. It seemed that Nie Tian didn't use his full strength when he fought with the mustached man. That attack of yours is strong, but it's far from enough to kill me. Nie Tian's body shook, and a wave of sword aura shot out, cutting a boulder in front of him. Very good. Lin Qingyuan smiled. I didn't expect there to be a genius like you in the all-heaven sacred world. I, Lin Qingyuan, have underestimated you. Come. Nie Tian's battle intent surged, and sword intent surged from his body. Being forced back just now had aroused his competitive spirit. He really wanted to see just how strong Lin Qingyuan was. Kid, I won't bully you. If you can take 2 more attacks from me, I'll leave. Lin Qingyuan said in a deep voice. His expression was determined, and his eyes were vicious. He had to take Nie Tian's life with 2 attacks. Is that so? Nie Tianling smirked. He was just testing Lin Qingyuan's strength, but he didn't expect Lin Qingyuan to treat him as a weakling. Second attack. Lin Qingyuan roared, and saber aura surged from his body. It was as if he wasn't a person, but a boundless sea of saber aura. Very good. Nie Tian felt the pressure in the air increase, but he wasn't afraid. Instead, he smiled and sword aura surged from his body, and the roar of a dragon echoed in the air. Idiot! Lin Qingyuan frowned and his face was filled with rage. He was a saber user, and Nie Tian was a swordsman. But Nie Tian gave up on the sharpness of his sword, and took the initiative to fight him with his aura. The saber was forceful, and the sword was sharp. How could sword aura compete with saber aura? Nie Tian was using his weakness to attack his opponent's strength. If this wasn't idiocy, what was? Do you really think that your saber aura is stronger than my sword aura? Nie Tian, however, laughed wildly. His cold words were filled with arrogance. Arrogant! Lin Qingyuan's expression changed. He was completely enraged by Nie Tian. The purple saber slashed down, and the sky seemed to sink, as if the world was about to collapse. Judging from Nie Tian's words, he was obviously looking down on him and didn't take him seriously at all. What right did an ant from the all-heaven sacred world have to look down on a genius from the profound world? World-devouring sword dragon. The corner of Nie Tian's mouth twitched as he sensed the overwhelming pressure. His sword intent soared into the heavens. Sword light burst forth from his body, and an unstoppable momentum surged out of him like a broken dam. Boom! Boom! In the air, the saber was like a mountain, and the sword was like a dragon, crashing into each other. Chapter 47-73. Bang! Within the valley, a muffled sound could be heard, as if the sky was falling. Boom, boom, boom! The surging wild power surged like a stormy sea, spreading in all directions crazily. Nie Tian was in the middle of the waves, but he was as heavy as a mountain. His feet were like the roots of a tree, not moving an inch. Bang! 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 On the other side, Lin Qingyuan's body swayed, and he could no longer support himself. He took 3 steps back before he could stabilize himself. How is this possible? After the waves dissipated, Lin Qingyuan looked at Nie Tian in shock, his face full of disbelief. In the second exchange, when the saber and sword collided, he was actually knocked back by Tian. In the first exchange, he clearly had the upper hand. The second exchange, however, was far more powerful than the first exchange. Moreover, Tian had given up on the sharpness of his sword to fight him head-on. But even so, why was the one who was pushed back Lin Qingyuan? Lin Qingyuan, right? Tian looked at Lin Qingyuan's shocked reaction, and his lips curled into a smile. Your second exchange is not that great. You. Lin Qingyuan's eyes trembled, as if there was a fire burning in them. He was the genius of the Lin clan. When had he ever been looked down upon like this? Come on, the third exchange. Tian was as calm as ever, and he pointed his sword at Lin Qingyuan, full of provocation. Kid, you asked for it. Lin Qingyuan's eyes trembled, and the blood in his eyes made him look like a beast, wanting to skin Tian alive. Boom! In the next moment, an unstoppable aura exploded from his body, and an endless amount of saber intent condensed into a large black saber, covering his entire body. Mystic Een Saber. The mustached man and the others saw this, and their expressions changed as they cried out in shock. Lin Qingyuan had taken out the Mystic Een Saber, which meant that he was going to kill. This aura, it's so evil. Tian furrowed his eyebrows. He could sense an extremely strong evil aura from the Mystic Een Saber, as if there were countless evil spirits imprisoned in the saber. Kid, I originally didn't want to kill you, but since you're courting death, don't blame me for this. Lin Qingyuan said darkly. Perhaps it was due to the influence of the Black Een Saber, but his face had become extremely malevolent, and his facial features were all twisted together. You want to kill me with just this? What a joke! Tianling sneered, his eyes flashing with an even more extreme provocation. Courting death. Lin Qingyuan felt humiliated and went completely crazy. With a roar, the Black Een Saber suddenly moved. Boom! The surrounding void suddenly rumbled, as if the heavens and earth were unable to withstand this power and were on the verge of collapsing. 12 Heaven-Slaying Sword Formation, activate. Tian's eyes turned cold, and a Fiend God reverse mark appeared at the corner of his eyes. His pupils turned black like two abysses. Boom! 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 He lightly stepped on the ground, and 12 terrifying sword shadows shot into the sky with him as the center. Rumble! Suddenly, the entire space in the valley seemed to explode, and the clouds in the sky were all shattered. What a powerful aura! The mustached man and the others trembled violently. The aura that Tian emitted was too terrifying, and they almost could not bear it. They never thought that such a young Holy Realm martial artist would have such strength. Young master! The mustached man's eyes trembled, and he could not help but shout. When Lin Qingyuan took out the Mystic Een Saber, he thought that the battle was over and that Tian would definitely die. But now, he began to worry about Lin Qingyuan. With Tian's aura, Lin Qingyuan might not be a match for him. It was obvious that Tian had been holding back, but Lin Qingyuan did not see it. Die! But Lin Qingyuan's eyes were already red with anxiety. Once the Mystic Een Saber was drawn, there would definitely be blood. How could he stop now? Boom! He took a step forward, and the Mystic Een Saber moved, drawing a black line in the air. It was like a black dragon that had solidified, and it pressed down on Tian. Bang! 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 Before the saber even landed, the ground had already begun to crack, and countless ravines appeared. The entire valley shook violently. Reckless! Tian's eyes narrowed slightly, and a cold killing intent surged in his eyes. He originally only wanted to teach Lin Qingyuan a lesson, but the latter's killing intent was too strong, so he could not be blamed. Boom! 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 In the next moment, in the air, 12 huge sword shadows gathered like giant dragons, forming a dazzling sword shadow. It was like a sword of heaven's punishment, slashing everything in its path. Bang! The saber and the sword collided, and the heavens and earth shook. Boom boom boom. Chi 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 chi. Bang bang bang. Endless sounds of explosions rang out, and from the center of the collision, it spread wildly in all directions. Lin Qingyuan was hit by the impact, and after a few seconds, he finally could not take it anymore. With a cry of pain, he was sent flying. "Young master!" The mustached man saw this scene and screamed. He was actually loyal, and he rushed towards Lin Qingyuan to protect his master. After a long time, the terrifying turbid waves finally settled. Lin Qingyuan and the mustached man leaned against a huge rock. Both of them were badly mutilated, and they only had one last breath left. On the other hand, Nie Tian stood in the same place, and he was as sharp as a sword, without a single injury. "You? Pooh!" Lin Qingyuan's eyes trembled, and there was an unconcealable shock and fear in his eyes. He looked at Nie Tian, and just as he was about to speak, he spat out a mouthful of blood. "Young master, are you all right?" In comparison, the mustached man's injuries were slightly lighter, and he held onto Lin Qingyuan and asked nervously. If he had not stepped forward at the critical moment and blocked part of the impact for Lin Qingyuan, the latter would have been a corpse by now. But he did this not because he was truly loyal. Because he was Lin Qingyuan's personal servant. If Lin Qingyuan died, the Lin family would not let him live. "What about me?" The corner of Nie Tian's mouth twitched, and he asked arrogantly. "Pooh!" Lin Qingyuan looked at Nie Tian, especially the arrogance and disdain in the latter's eyes. His blood boiled, and he spat out another mouthful of blood. "Kid, don't go too far." The mustached man took a step forward and said arrogantly, "Do you know what kind of person my young master is? In my eyes, he's just an idiot who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. I'm not interested." Nie Tian laughed again, trying to provoke Lin Qingyuan. "Stinking brat you." "Pooh." As expected, Lin Qingyuan's eyes narrowed, and he took a step forward. Just as he was about to curse, he spat out another mouthful of blood. Then, his vision went black and he fell to the ground. "Young master!" Seeing this, the mustached man and the others all cried out in pain, and went forward to help Lin Qingyuan up. "Get out of here before he's completely dead." Nie Tianling smiled coldly and ignored these people, and walked back into the cave. Chapter 47-74. Brat, the Lin clan will not let today's matter go. The mustached man looked at Nie Tian's back disappearing into the cave before he reacted and roared furiously. Nie Tian didn't care about Lin Qingyuan and the others at all. After entering the cave, he followed the traces left by Yi Wushang and soon arrived at a spacious area. "I didn't expect that there would be a whole new world in this cave." Nie Tian couldn't help but let out a cry of joy when he saw the light before him. This cave seemed to be a passageway that connected to another world. As far as the eye could see, there was an endless mountain range outside the cave. "Brother Nie!" Yi Wushang saw Nie Tian and shouted anxiously, "This lady's aura is getting weaker and weaker. Come and take a look." "Okay." Nie Tian replied and came to the side of Yi Wushang and the azure-clothed lady. There are two streams of chaotic true qi in her body that are hard to control. If we can't suppress them, I'm afraid she won't live for long. Nie Tian's face darkened when he sensed the azure-clothed lady. The azure-clothed lady looked like she was in her 20s and her aura wasn't strong. Who was it that attacked her so heavily? The two streams of chaotic true qi were like two sharp blades that kept attacking the azure-clothed lady's body, causing great damage to her limbs and meridians. "Then what should we do?" Yi Wushang frowned anxiously and beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. Nie Tian raised his head and looked at Yi Wushang. He didn't expect the latter to care so much about this azure-clothed lady. "Brother Yi, try to stabilize her heart meridian. Leave the rest to me." Nie Tian opened his devil eye and carefully observed for a while before saying to Yi Wushang, "Okay." Yi Wushang nodded and took a deep breath. A vigorous force was released from his body. It was endless but not oppressive. It enveloped the azure-clothed lady and protected her heart meridian. Very good. Nie Tian sensed for a moment and confirmed that the azure-clothed lady's heart meridian was stable. He didn't hesitate any more and pointed at the azure-clothed lady's forehead. Whoosh! Whoosh! Instantly, two completely different sword energies charged into the green-clothed woman's body from her forehead. Bang, bang, bang! Nie Tian's eyes darkened slightly. He could clearly see two streams of sword qi and two streams of true qi colliding with each other inside the green-clothed woman's body. He was going to use two streaks of sword qi to cut off the two streams of chaotic true qi. At the same time, the green-robed woman's heart meridian was attacked, and blood flowed from the corner of her mouth. Fortunately, she had Yi Wushang's prison power to protect her heart meridian. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to withstand such an impact. A moment later, the green-robed woman's condition gradually stabilized, and she fell into a deep sleep. Are you okay? Nie Tian let out a long breath. Seeing Yi Wushang's forehead full of sweat, he asked with a smile. I'm fine. Yi Wushang smiled awkwardly. He had just consumed too much power. He didn't expect the two streams of true qi in the green-clothed woman's body to be so powerful. However, Nie Tian was actually able to forcefully sever the two streams of true qi with just two streams of sword qi. His ability was truly unimaginable. It's good that you're fine. Nie Tian smiled faintly. He stood up and looked at the mountain range in the distance. He couldn't help but exclaim, I didn't expect the ninth hell of the heavenly prison dragon sect to hide such a place. The creation of heaven and earth is boundlessly mysterious. Yi Wushang also stood up and nodded. He didn't expect this to happen either. If the green-clothed woman hadn't appeared, they wouldn't have come to the depths of the cave. Brother Yi, I've been wanting to ask you some questions. Nie Tian glanced at Yi Wushang and smiled. There's only the two of us here now. I hope you can answer my questions. You want to ask if the Underworld Emperor, the patriarch of the Seven Knights Underworld race, is related to the Underworld Emperor you met? Is that so? Yi Wushang smiled and said directly, Yes. Nie Tian nodded with a smile. That Underworld Emperor is very important to me. Please answer my questions, Brother Yi. The two Underworld Emperors are the same person. Yi Wushang finally spoke after a long silence. The same person? Nie Tian's eyes narrowed and he asked in surprise, You're saying that the Underworld Emperor of the Seven Knights Underworld race and the Underworld Emperor of the Nine-Li Demon Realm are the same person? Yes. Yi Wushang had clearly expected this reaction from Nie Tian and he nodded. How is that possible? Nie Tian exclaimed in shock. The Underworld Emperor of the Seven Knights Underworld race was a prison realm martial artist, and the Underworld Emperor of the Nine-Li Demon Realm was a Saint World martial artist. How could the two be the same person? To be more precise, the Underworld Emperor you know is the Nethersal doppelganger of my patriarch. Yi Wushang took another deep breath and said, As the patriarch of my race, the Underworld Emperor has cultivated a powerful secret art, the art of Nethersal. The art of Nethersal can create many Nethersal doppelgangers. A long time ago, the Underworld Emperor discovered a passage that connects to another world. He released his Nethersal doppelgangers through this passage. So, the Underworld Emperor I met was only a Nethersal doppelganger of the Seven Knights Underworld Emperor. Before Yi Wushang could finish, Nie Tian's eyes trembled and he asked, Yes. Yi Wushang nodded and said with a wry smile, I don't know how many Nethersal doppelgangers the Underworld Emperor has created. I'm not even sure if the Underworld Emperor you met was the same Nethersal doppelganger. The only thing I'm sure of is that the Underworld Emperor is currently retrieving the Nethersal doppelganger. Retrieving the Nethersal doppelganger? Nie Tian frowned and exclaimed again. What does that mean? The Underworld Emperor is still in a deep slumber. Yi Wushang's eyes narrowed and he said, This is also the reason why the Seven Knights Underworld race retired. However, with the return of the Nethersal doppelganger, the underworld emperor will slowly wake up from his slumber. Then, he looked at Nye Tian with unconcealable worry in his eyes and said, I've been observing the underworld emperor recently. I don't know why, but I can vaguely sense a dangerous aura from the underworld emperor. I can't be sure what kind of effect the underworld emperor will have on the 7 Knights underworld race, the 7 prison realms, and even the all heavens sacred world. So you're very uneasy. Nye Tian gradually understood and looked at Yi Wushang. Yes. After Yi Wushang nodded, he let out a long breath and said, The art of imprisoning soul is a kind of forbidden secret technique. The emperor of the underworld doesn't dare to practice it rashly, and they won't let the imprisoning soul doppelganger out to the outside world. I'm not sure if the underworld emperor after the Nethersal doppelganger returns will still be the underworld emperor of the 7 Knights underworld race. This. Nye Tian's eyebrows furrowed in confusion. Could the return of the Nethersal doppelganger affect the underworld emperor? Brother Yi, after the 12 Pillars project is over, I hope you can come back with me to the 7 Knights underworld race. Yi Wushang looked at Nye Tian and said solemnly. Me? Nye Tian frowned and said in surprise, What can I do if I go to the 7 Knights underworld race? If the Saintess trusts you, then I trust you. Yi Wushang said solemnly with a cold gaze. Chapter 47-75. The Saintess believes me? Nye Tian frowned. The image of the Saintess of the 7 Knights Nether clan appeared in his mind. Who was this Saintess? Why would she believe him? Yi Wushang looked at Nye Tian. He knew the latter was confused, but he didn't say anything. Cough, cough, cough. At this moment, a dry cough came from the side. The girl in azure had woken up. Nye Tian and Yi Wushang looked at each other and immediately walked over. Who are you? The cyan-clothed woman looked at Nye Tian and Yi Wushang like a frightened kitten. Her face was full of horror, and she subconsciously curled up together. Miss, don't be afraid. The person chasing you has left. Yi Wushang's voice was gentle, but the mask on his face still scared the girl into retreating. Miss, what's your name? Why is Lin Qingyuan chasing you? Nye Tian smiled and asked. You know Lin Qingyuan? The girl in azure's eyes trembled as she looked at Nye Tian in shock. Of course, I was the one who beat him away. Nye Tian smiled again and tried to calm the green-robed woman down. You beat him away? The girl in azure's eyes trembled again. Her frightened face calmed down a lot, but she was still doubtful. Really? Of course. Nye Tian's lips curled up, otherwise, the person you're facing right now would be Lin Qingyuan. The girl in azure furrowed her brows. After a moment of silence, she nodded and said, My name is Qing Man Yi. That person called Lin Qingyuan is my fiancé. Fiancé? Nye Tian and Yi Wushang were taken aback at the same time. A fiancé chasing after his fiancée? What was going on? Lin Qingyuan is a bastard. He hooked up with his cousin, and I ran into him. He wanted to kill me to silence me. Qing Man Yi's eyes suddenly darkened. She subconsciously clenched her fists with deep hatred. I see. Nye Tian suddenly understood. He thought for a moment and asked, Miss Qing, how did you get here? I don't know either. Qing Mani calmed down, shook her head, and said with a blank expression, I ran out of a forest in the backyard of the Lin mansion, entered a cave, and then inexplicably arrived here. As she spoke, she cautiously looked at Nye Tian and Yi Wushang and asked, Young masters, I feel that the environment here is a little different from the world I've been in before. Could it be that I've come to another world? This is the prison realm. Nye Tian smiled and said, The world you were in before should be the profound world. From the looks of it, the cave that Qing Mani entered was a tunnel that connected the prison realm and the profound world. Yes. The world I'm in is called the Boundless Realm. Qing Mani stood up and said excitedly, There are 9 continents in the Boundless Realm, and each continent is extremely vast and immeasurable. I've heard from the elders in my family that there are other worlds outside of the boundless realm. Who would have thought that it's true? Nie Tian and Yi Wushang looked at Qing Mani and couldn't help but smile. This little girl was really a happy-go-lucky person. She had just escaped from her fiancé's pursuit, but she was still so cheerful. Oh no, how do I go back? But in the next moment, Qing Mani's expression changed and she exclaimed in shock. Do you still remember that cave? Nie Tian's lips twitched as he asked. I don't remember. Qing Mani was embarrassed. She only cared about running and didn't remember how she got here. Miss Qing, don't worry. You can stay in the prison realm for a while. Yi Wushang nodded slightly and looked at Qing Mani with gentle eyes. Alright, I've never been here anyway. I can take a look around. Qing Mani smiled and her eyes narrowed into crescent moons. Brother Yi, Miss Qing has just woken up and needs time to recover. You stay here and accompany her. I'll go out and take a look. Nie Tian looked at the two and smiled faintly. Then, his figure flashed and he rushed out. This person is so fast. Qing Mani didn't even see Nie Tian's figure clearly. Her pretty face was filled with shock and disbelief. Could it be that the prison realm's martial artists were stronger than the boundless realm? The hell energy here is much stronger than the hell heaven below. After leaving the cave, Nie Tian shuttled through the dense forest. He was shocked by the hell energy in the air. No wonder these prison realm geniuses risked their lives to enter the higher hell heaven. Above the 9th hell heaven is the 3rd hell heaven. I wonder what's there. Nie Tian looked up into the sky and the idea of entering the 10th hell heaven appeared in his mind. With Yi Wushang accompanying Qing Mani, she should be fine. Moreover, he seemed extra by their side. He might as well leave and take a look at the 10th hell heaven. The heavenly prison Dragon Gate had a total of 12 hell heavens. However, it was said that no one had entered the 12th hell heaven before. Let's go and take a look then. With this thought in mind, Nie Tian no longer hesitated and he rushed towards the 9th hell heaven. Boom! But just as he was about to reach the top of the 9th hell heaven, he felt a terrifying pressure bearing down on him. Nie Tian frowned and activated the astral soul armor to resist the terrifying pressure. However, the oppressive force was so strong that it forced Nie Tian to sink hundreds of meters before he managed to regain his balance. Who's there? Come out. Nie Tian steadied himself and looked up into the sky. However, he didn't see anyone. Even when he opened his demonic eye, he didn't notice anything strange. What's going on? Nie Tian frowned. Could there be a natural barrier above the 9th hell heaven, preventing him from reaching the top? Let's try again. After thinking for a moment, the astral soul wings appeared behind him. When the wings spread out, they were 100 meters long. He looked like a giant bird as he soared into the sky. Back off! But at this moment, a deep voice resounded from the sky. The pressure was extremely strong. Kaboom! Then, a bolt of lightning struck down, drawing a blazing white trajectory in the air, directly descending towards Nie Tian. Bang! Everything happened in the blink of an eye. Nie Tian couldn't dodge in time and was directly struck by the lightning. Just as he was about to hit the ground, he spread his wings and barely managed to stabilize himself. Good boy, you actually managed to block my palm. At this moment, a figure in black appeared, standing high in the sky. His aura was unfathomable, like a Buddha descending to heaven and earth. What a strong aura! Nie Tian frowned. Even though he was 10,000 meters away, he could still feel the tyrannical aura of the other party, causing his heart to tremble. How could there be such a powerful existence in the 9th hell? Young man, I am the Sky Guardian of the 9th hell. The figure in black spoke in a deep voice that shook the heavens and earth. With me here, don't even think about entering the 10th hell. Chapter 4776. Heavenly Guardian? Nie Tian stared at the black-robed figure, unable to hide the shock in his eyes. Heavenly Guardian, guards the heavenly prison Dragon Gate. The ninth heaven guardian laughed. Young man, do you know how long the heavenly prison Dragon Gate has existed? I don't. Nye Tian replied indifferently. The heavenly prison Dragon Gate has existed since the creation of the 7 prisons. The heavenly guardian laughed. As the heavenly guardian, I have met countless heaven's favorites here. You are very capable. Out of all the geniuses I have met, you rank in the top 5. Thank you for your compliment. Nye Tian smiled. But the 9th hell is not my final destination. I still have to go to the higher levels. The 9th Sky Guardian crossed his arms in front of his chest and said proudly, So, you want to challenge me? Please enlighten me. Nye Tian stomped his foot and his body shone with starlight. Like the Milky Way, his demeanor was monstrous. Young man, I have underestimated you. The 9th Sky Guardian of Purgatory felt a sense of pressure, but he was not angry. Instead, he burst out laughing in excitement. He had guarded the 9th hell for a long time, and it wasn't easy to meet someone who dared to challenge him. He really wanted to see just how powerful Nye Tian was. 8 Baron Blade. Just then, Nye Tian growled and the sword in the sky shot into the sky. The light from the sword spread out for thousands of meters and turned into waves of swords that pressed down on the 9th Heaven Guardian. Very well. The 9th Heaven Guardian laughed arrogantly and pressed down with his hand. The terrifying palm slammed down and the surrounding space sank. It was as if it couldn't handle this power and was about to crumble in the next second. Bang! In the next second, the giant palm slammed down and blocked the torrential swords. The void rumbled and a terrifying aura spread out in all directions. It was boundlessly violent. Under the huge impact, Nye Tian couldn't control himself and was forced to sink for hundreds of meters before he could stabilize himself. Such power! He looked at the 9th Guardian of Hell. The latter was like a mountain, unmoving. He had fought with many experts in the prison realm, and the 9th Hell's heavenly guardian was definitely one of the top 3. Furthermore, he could tell that when the 9th Sky Guardian of Hell made his move, the power of heaven and earth in the area tilted slightly. This meant that the 9th Guardian of Hell could directly mobilize the power of heaven and earth. Little guy, your sword force is very strong, but it's a pity that it's not as strong as my palm. The 9th Heaven Guardian looked at Nye Tian and laughed heartily, seemingly very interested. Really? The corners of Nye Tian's mouth curled up, and his eyes surged with a fierce fighting spirit. What? The next moment, his aura changed as a bone-chilling murderous aura was unleashed instantly, which encapsulated the surroundings like an invisible hand. The aura has changed. When the 9th Heaven Guardian sensed the change in Nye Tian's aura, he could not help but exclaim in surprise. However, he was not afraid at all. Instead, he smiled and said, Interesting. Starfire Burning Sea. Nye Tian's figure moved again. The power of the stars was released, and endless starlight enveloped heaven and earth. The sky-shrouding totem was activated. Kaboom! The sword in the sky swept across the sky, and the endless sword intent turned into a sea of fire in the sky. The terrifying sword's shadow was like a fire dragon, roaring between heaven and earth. Good timing! Seeing this, the 9th Heaven Guardian of Hell shouted. A vast ocean appeared behind him, and he slammed his palm down. Endless power surged, sweeping everything in its path. Bang! Suddenly, the two extreme forces collided, and a muffled sound came from the sky. The entire world seemed like it was about to explode. Rumble! Chi-chi-chi! The terrifying forces collided, like two giant beasts biting and devouring each other. Bang! A moment later, after a muffled sound, Nye Tian's figure fell down again. Even though he used the sky-shrouding totem to control the power of heaven and earth, he was no match for the 9th Heaven Guardian of Hell. While Nye Tian was still in midair, a soft force appeared and caught him in midair. Yi Wushang. He steadied himself and turned around. It was the Night Emperor. Are you all right? Yi Wuxiang looked at Nie Tian and raised his head to look at the ninth heaven guardian of hell in the sky. I'm fine. Nie Tian smiled faintly and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. The ninth heaven guardian of hell was too strong, and there seemed to be no limit. Another brat, and he's from the Seven Knights Underworld tribe. The ninth heaven guardian was slightly surprised to see Yi Wuxiang. He smiled. Is the Emperor of Hell finally willing to let someone from the Seven Knights Underworld tribe come to the heavenly prison Dragon Gate? You know the Emperor of Hell? Yi Wuxiang's eyes trembled. Of course. The ninth heaven guardian laughed. When the Emperor of Hell came to the heavenly prison Dragon Gate, he was still a young man. My battle with him ended in a draw. The Emperor of Hell entered the 10th Hell? Nie Tian frowned and asked. Yes. The ninth heaven guardian nodded. He was able to tie with me, so he is naturally qualified to enter the 10th Hell. So, I don't have to defeat you to enter the 10th Hell, I just have to tie with you? Nie Tian smiled and asked. The Emperor of Hell alone can tie. The ninth heaven guardian smiled and looked at Nie Tian and Yi Wuxiang. You two have to defeat me to enter the 10th Hell. Alright. The corner of Nie Tian's lips twitched. He looked at Yi Wuxiang and the latter nodded. The ninth heaven guardian was strong, but the two of them had a chance if they worked together. 12 Heavenly Sword Array, activate. In the next moment, Nie Tian no longer hesitated. He stomped on the ground and 12 enormous sword shadows appeared like giant trees rising from the ground. Sword Array. The ninth heaven guardian's eyes narrowed in surprise. I didn't expect you to be able to see through my technique of controlling the power of heaven and earth. If we can't even see through this, how can we defeat you? Nie Tianling let out a cold grin. Sword intent burst out from his body and filled the space with a murderous aura. He had unleashed the 12 heavenly sword array to control the power of heaven and earth. From the previous exchange, he could tell that the ninth heaven guardian was able to control the power of heaven and earth, and could even absorb energy from space. In order to defeat the ninth heaven guardian, he must first stop the power of heaven and earth in the sky. Watch out! Yi Wuxiang let out a cold grunt and made his move. Like a ray of light, he soared into the sky and charged at the ninth heaven guardian. This kid's aura is so cold. The ninth heaven guardian's gaze darkened as a hint of panic appeared on his face. He did not expect Yi Wuxiang to be this strong, not any weaker than the Emperor of Hell. Overwhelming palm. However, the ninth heaven guardian was not afraid at all. With a stern expression, he uttered in a cold tone and flipped his hand in the sky, causing the power of heaven and earth to change. Chapter 47-77. Boom! The ninth guardian of Hell's palm fell, and heaven and earth became silent. Tens of thousands of lightning bolts appeared in the sky, instantly forming a sea of lightning that pressed down on Nie Tian and Yi Wuxiang. What a terrifying aura! Yi Wuxiang, who was in midair, felt the overwhelming pressure. His face couldn't help but change, and he was shocked. The ninth guardian of Hell was too strong. He was far stronger than ordinary peak heavenly miracle powerhouses. He didn't expect there to be such a powerful existence in this world. Watch out! Nie Tian's eyes narrowed. He also sensed that something was wrong. With a low roar, the astral soul wings appeared on his back, and he flew toward Yi Wuxiang. The 12 heaven-slaying sword formation couldn't withstand the impact of the lightning, and was on the verge of collapse. Only then did he realize that the ninth guardian of Hell hadn't used his full strength at all. He was just playing with him. What worried him was that even the ninth guardian of Hell couldn't be sure if he had used his full strength. Bang! With a muffled sound, Yi Wuxiang was hit by the lightning and fell like a kite with a broken string. Almost at the same time, Nie Tian arrived and caught Yi Wuxiang firmly. Yi Wuxiang, are you okay? Nie Tian steadied himself and looked at Yi Wuxiang. The latter's face was pale, and there was a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. He didn't know if he was seriously injured. I'm fine. Yi Wuxiang wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and looked at the ninth guardian of hell in the sky. He didn't show any fear, but his fighting spirit was strong. "Not bad, kid. You only suffered minor injuries after being struck by this Lord's power of thunder. Looks like I've underestimated you." The ninth guardian of hell laughed loudly as if he was interested. However, what surprised him even more was that Nye Tian could still activate the sword formation when he had almost complete control of the momentum of heaven and earth. "Brother Nye, I need the power of the supreme twin seals in your body." Yi Wuxiang looked at Nye Tian and said in a deep voice, "Supreme twin seals." Nye Tian's eyes narrowed slightly. He didn't expect Yi Wuxiang to be able to see the supreme twin seals in his body. The supreme twin seals were the heavenly Dipper Death Seal and the earthly Fiend Extermination Seal from the Three Lives clan. Back then, in the Three Lives race's ancestral land, Nye Tian had fused the Seven Knights Samsara and the Supreme Twin Seals, obtaining the power of undying and indestructible. But after that, he had never used the power of the Seven Knights of Samsara or the Supreme Twin Seals. And now, the Seven Knights of Reincarnation and the Paramount Twin Seals were finally fused into his body. But how did Yi Wuxiang see through Nye Tian's Supreme Double Seal at a glance? Yes. Yi Wuxiang nodded firmly, his expression firm. "All right." Nye Tian narrowed his eyes and nodded solemnly. The Supreme Twin Seals belonged to the Three Life race. Could there be a connection between the Seven Night Underworld race and the Three Life race? Rumble. In the next moment, Nye Tian released the Heavenly Dipper Death Seal. The power of the seal was like a landslide and a tsunami, crazily released, stirring up heaven and earth. Such powerful strength! Yi Wuxiang's heart skipped a beat. Although he knew that Nye Tian had the power of the double seals in his body, he did not expect the power of the Heavenly Dipper Death Seal to be so powerful. "Night Dragon, come out!" Yi Wuxiang's eyes flickered as a black aura was unleashed from his body, causing the surroundings to fall into darkness. Roar! A giant black dragon poked its head out from the black aura and let out a shocking roar. The Night Dragon bloodline of the Seven Night Underworld race. Up in the sky, the Ninth Hell's Sky Guardian frowned upon seeing this. He blurted out in surprise, "I didn't expect the Seven Night Underworld race to have a second person with the Night Dragon bloodline after the Underworld Emperor. Ninth Hell's Sky Guardian, I'll show you the power of the Heavenly Dipper Night Dragon." Yi Wuxiang let out a wild laugh and stomped his foot on the Night Dragon's head. Boundless Heavenly Dipper energy gathered on the Night Dragon, as if it was wearing a suit of armor, the Heavenly Dipper armor. Great timing! The Ninth Hell's Sky Guardian laughed wildly when he saw the Heavenly Dipper Night Dragon soaring into the sky. Boom! At this moment, a giant golden Buddha statue appeared behind him. Waves of Buddhist energy and lightning energy fused together. It was incomparably dazzling, as if thousands of golden suns were blooming. Rumble! In the next instant, the Heavenly Dipper Night Dragon's charge emitted thousands of golden rays, and a terrifying force spread out in all directions. The Night Dragon bloodline can fuse so perfectly with the Heavenly Dipper Death Seal. Nye Tian retreated, but he was extremely surprised. He didn't expect Yi Wuxiang's Night Dragon bloodline to fuse so perfectly with the power of the Heavenly Dipper Death Seal. It seemed that the Seven Night Underworld race and the Three Life tribe must have an extremely close relationship. The Ninth Hell's Sky Guardian was also very powerful. He didn't seem to be at a disadvantage against the Night Dragon's charge enhanced by the Heavenly Dipper Death Seal. Bam 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 bam! Terrifying forces intertwined in the void, and the world seemed to have fallen into a void. The forces collided, devoured, and fused, forming an extremely shocking sight. Nye Tian. Yi Wuxiang's voice rang out again as the two sides were in a deadlock. All right. Nye Tian obviously knew what Yi Wuxiang wanted. He narrowed his eyes and released the power of the Earth Fiend Extermination Seal without any hesitation. Boom boom boom! Compared to the Heavenly Dipper Death Seal, the power of the Earth Fiend Extermination Seal was more violent. The moment it was released, the surrounding space rumbled, and the world seemed to be boiling. Such a powerful aura! This was the first time Nye Tian released the power of the Heavenly Dipper Death Seal at the same time. He couldn't help but feel a surge of blood, and he almost vomited blood. Even though his cultivation was at the 9th level Heaven Perception Realm, the power of the Supreme Twin Seals still made him feel extremely pressured. Whoosh! In midair, the rolling power of the Earth Fiend spread out like a raging wave and fused with the Heavenly Dipper Night Dragon. Roar! The Heavenly Dipper Night Dragon's power skyrocketed after obtaining the Earth Fiend Extermination Seal. Its roar seemed to be able to tear the entire world apart. Oh no! The 9th Hell's Sky Guardian couldn't help but cry out in horror when he saw this scene. For the first time, he showed an expression of fear. Bang! The Heavenly Dipper Night Dragon soared into the sky. Its enormous, pitch-black figure emitted a black glow and a ferocious aura, as if it was going to devour the heavens and earth. Damn it! The 9th Hell's Sky Guardian let out a furious roar. The golden Buddha behind him shattered into pieces and dissipated into golden light dots. Bang! However, at that instant, his aura grew stronger instead of decreasing. A boundless force was unleashed, as if it came from the heavens and earth itself, resulting in a tremendous pressure. Roar! The Heavenly Dipper Night Dragon let out a deep roar as it felt the terrifying pressure. This is the aura of the Heavenly Pillar. Yi Wuxiang was startled. His eyes trembled as he stared at the 9th Hell's Sky Guardian in disbelief. Why would the 9th Hell's Sky Guardian have the aura of the Heavenly Pillar? Chapter 4778. The Aura of a Heavenly Pillar. Yi Wuxiang looked at the 9th Heaven Guardian in disbelief. How could the 9th Heaven Guardian release the aura of a Heavenly Pillar? Boom! Right at that moment, the aura of the 9th Hell's Heavenly Guardian skyrocketed. It surged into the sky like a tsunami, threatening to drown everything in its path. Roar! The Heavenly Dipper and Earthly Fiend Night Dragon seemed to sense the unusual aura and roared in the air. Bang! The next moment, a loud muffled sound was heard, and a terrifying power descended. The Heavenly Dipper and Earthly Fiend Night Dragon's huge body sank in the air, and a huge crack appeared. Crack, crack, crack. Then, the crack rapidly expanded, spreading in all directions like a spider web. Yi Wuxiang was stunned by the scene in front of him. He looked at the scene in disbelief, his eyes trembling, and his face turning pale. He even forgot to retreat. Oh no! Seeing this, Nye Tian's heart trembled. He flapped his astral soul wings and dashed toward Yi Wuxiang at the speed of light. You two juniors, this is the power of a Heavenly Pillar. Can you withstand it? High up in the sky, the 9th Heavenly Guardian's voice rang out, and a terrifying pressure descended from the sky, transforming into endless waves that pressed down madly. Roar! The Heavenly Dipper and Earthly Fiend Night Dragon finally couldn't bear it anymore. It raised its head to the sky and let out a final roar. Its huge body suddenly exploded, turning into waves that rushed in all directions. How is this possible? Yi Wuxiang's eyes trembled. He couldn't believe the scene in front of him. The Supreme Twin Seals of the Three Life Race, the Heavenly Dipper Death Seal, the Earthly Fiend Extermination Seal, and the strongest Night Dragon bloodline of the Seven Knights Underworld race, were so vulnerable before the Heavenly Pillar? Boom! The violent power roared and turned into a terrifying strangulation force that pressed down on Yi Wuxiang. Yi Wuxiang's eyes trembled, and he finally reacted. He wanted to escape, but he was shocked to find that the void around him was filled with a terrifying power, and he couldn't move at all. Damn it! Yi Wuxiang cursed and struggled with all his might, but he couldn't move at all. The strangulation force was like the most ruthless storm. Even if he had the Night Dragon bloodline, he wouldn't be able to survive. Yi Wuxiang. At this moment of crisis, Nye Tian's voice rang out. after which a sword shadow pierced through the air, exuding an incomparable sharpness. Wherever it passed by, it would destroy everything. Now! Yi Wuxiang's eyes trembled violently as he sensed that the space-time had loosened a little. With a cry of surprise, his night dragon bloodline erupted once again and forcefully broke the space-time confinement. His figure was extremely fast. Seizing the opportunity, he quickly retreated several hundred meters away. Boom, boom, boom! A terrifying storm swept past Yi Wuxiang's body, causing a huge impact on his body. In the blink of an eye, his entire body had become a bloody mess. What? Right when he was about to be unable to hold on any longer, a powerful and soft force swept over, and it was like a large hand that forcefully pulled him out of the tempest vortex. That was close. Nie Tian took Yi Wuxiang and retreated thousands of meters. Only then did he stabilize his body. He looked at the violent power in the sky with lingering fear. After some time passed, the energy dissipated, and the ninth guardian of purgatory appeared high up in the sky. Yi Wuxiang, are you okay? Nie Tian took a deep breath and looked at Yi Wuxiang. The latter's body was a bloody mess, and it seemed that he was seriously injured. I'm fine. Yi Wuxiang nodded solemnly and let out a long breath. The bloodstains on his body dimmed a lot. He seemed to be seriously injured, but in fact it was just a flesh wound. It was not a big deal. Fortunately, Nie Tian had acted in time. If he had been a little slower, he would have been directly strangled by the violent power of the heavenly pillar. The power of the heavenly pillar was too terrifying. That kind of power that could strangle everything left Yi Wuxiang with lingering fear. But why did the ninth guardian of purgatory have the power of the heavenly pillar? It seems that I have underestimated the two of you. You were able to survive in front of the heavenly pillar. The ninth guardian of purgatory looked down at Nie Tian and Yi Wuxiang with a hint of appreciation in his eyes. For so many years, there were very few people who could force him to use the power of the heavenly pillar, and it was extremely rare to have the ability to survive in front of the heavenly pillar. Ninth guardian of purgatory, who exactly are you? Why do you have the power of the heavenly pillar? Yi Wuxiang looked at the ninth guardian and asked coldly. The ninth guardian let out a cold laugh and said, "Kid, would you believe me if I told you that I'm the heavenly pillar?" "You're the heavenly pillar." Yi Wuxiang's eyes trembled as he stared at the ninth guardian in disbelief. Wasn't the ninth guardian the guardian of the heavenly prison Dragon Gate? Why would he be the heavenly pillar? Was the heavenly pillar a person? To be more precise, it's the incarnation of the heavenly pillar. The ninth guardian spoke again. The 12 heavenly pillars are the foundation of the 7 prison realms, allowing them to maintain stability for a long time. And the heavenly prison Dragon Gate is a buffer zone formed by the 12 heavenly pillars. The training in the heavenly prison Dragon Gate is just a way for the 12 heavenly pillars to choose suitable candidates to become sacrifices. Sacrifices to the heavenly pillar. Yi Wuxiang and Nie Tian were stunned at the same time. They looked at the ninth guardian of hell in shock. Nie Tian had already learned from the Hengshan sword sect that very few people who participated in the heavenly pillar plan survived. The sword sect said that those who carried out the heavenly pillar plan sacrificed their lives to repair the heavenly pillars. Why did the ninth guardian of hell say that the participants of the sky pillar plan had become sacrifices for the sky pillar? The 12 heavenly pillars support the 7 prison realms, but there is a certain degree of instability. The ninth guardian smiled faintly. For so many years, in order to stabilize the heavenly pillars, the cultivators of the 7 prison realms have to sacrifice the lives of the most outstanding young cultivators to stabilize the heavenly pillars so that the 7 prison realms won't collapse. Say, isn't this the same as using the participants of the sky pillars as sacrifices? Nie Tian and Yi Wuxiang looked at each other, speechless. In fact, sacrificing oneself to stabilize the heavenly pillars could also be considered sacrifices. sacrificing oneself to stabilize the heavenly pillars. If you're the incarnation of the heavenly pillar, why are you telling us all this? Yi Wushang asked the ninth guardian in a cold voice. Is the incarnation of the heavenly pillar the heavenly pillar? Does it represent the will of the heavenly pillar? No one knows the truth about the heavenly pillars. Telling you all this is equivalent to announcing your death. The ninth guardian's expression darkened. As soon as he finished speaking, a monstrous aura surged from his body. The terrifying aura seemed to have set off a tsunami high up in the sky. Chapter 47-79. Rumble. The ninth heaven guardian's aura skyrocketed. It was as if endless waves were surging in the void, causing the heavens and earth to tremble. His aura has become stronger again. Yi Wushang's eyes trembled, unable to conceal the shock in his heart. The ninth heaven guardian was already so powerful that it was terrifying. Now, he had become even stronger. Are you afraid? Nie Tian looked at Yi Wushang and smiled. It's useless to be afraid. I can only fight with my life on the line. Yi Wushang also smiled. His aura surged and the night dragon bloodline was released. The terrifying bloodline aura was like a sea of blood. Very good. Under my pressure, the two of you actually still have such fighting spirit. It seems that I have underestimated the two of you. The ninth heaven guardian sneered and took a step forward. The heavens and earth roared, and a huge crack appeared in the void. What a terrifying power! Yi Wushang's body shook and his eyes trembled again. Even though he was not afraid of death, it was inevitable that his heart would palpitate in the face of such a powerful enemy. Come on! Nie Tian was fearless. He laughed wildly and took a step forward. The celestial demon inverse rune appeared at the corner of his eyes and quickly spread across his body. Boom! Torrential battle intent burst forth from Nie Tian's body. Endless sword intent rolled and roared in the void, making Nie Tian look like a huge sword that stood between heaven and earth instead of a human. So powerful! Yi Wushang was shocked again. Nie Tian's strength was stronger than he had imagined. Good lad, your aura reminds me of someone, Dong Wang Jingrong. The ninth heaven guardian's eyes darkened, and then he laughed. Senior Dong Wang. Nie Tian's expression changed when he heard Dong Wang Jingrong's name. Oh! The ninth heaven guardian was also surprised to see Nie Tian's reaction. He then smiled and said, You know Dong Wang Jingrong. It seems that you are related to him. You know where Senior Dong Wang is? Nie Tian's eyes trembled violently. He took a step forward and a tremendous sword momentum erupted. Like a rising mountain, it directly pressed down on the ninth guardian of hell. Little ant, don't overestimate yourself. The ninth heavenly guardian of hell sneered and pressed his hand down. A boundless amount of power poured down, causing the heaven and earth to tremble violently. Bang! In the next moment, a muffled sound rang out. The sword aura around Nie Tian could not withstand the mighty force and collapsed. Nie Tian's silhouette plummeted downwards, the astral wings on his back unfurled, yet he still couldn't control the speed of his descent. Nie Tian. Upon seeing this, Yi Wushang let out a shout, and his bloodline power erupted, transforming into a soft giant wave that caught Nie Tian. With the help of this force, Nie Tian managed to stabilize himself. Nie Tian, how are you? Yi Wushang came to Nie Tian's side and asked nervously. I'm fine. Nie Tian coughed out a mouthful of filthy blood, but he said he was fine. His eyes were fixed on the ninth heavenly guardian. The ninth heavenly guardian had yet to answer his question. Since you want to know where Dong Wang Jingrong is, I don't mind telling you. The ninth heavenly guardian smiled and said, Dong Wang Jingrong is the only person who has entered the deepest part of the heaven-supporting pillar since the heavenly prison Dragon Gate was activated. He even escaped from the confinement of the heaven-supporting pillar. But he was too stupid to enter the deeper part of the heaven-supporting pillar on his own accord. In the end, he was suppressed in the heavenly abyss and imprisoned forever. Heavenly abyss? Nie Tian's eyes flickered with excitement. He finally knew where Donghuang Jingrong was. That's right, the heavenly abyss, the deepest part of the heaven-supporting pillar. The ninth heavenly guardian chuckled, and his eyes emitted a chilling murderous intent as he said, "But you won't have the chance to see him, because you will soon die in my hands." Then, he looked down and sneered, "Not only you, all of you will die." "All of you?" Nie Tian and Yi Wushang were startled. They lowered their heads and saw that everyone who had entered the heavenly prison Dragon Gate had arrived. Chen Yuan, Mo Guchen, Bai Tu Jin, Yen Wushan, Ji Kachin, Mo Xiantian, and the others were all here. Clearly, the ninth Purgatory's heavenly guardian had sent them here, and his goal was to capture everyone in one fell swoop. Who's that? Why is his aura so strong? I don't know. Look, Yi Wang and Nie Tian are over there. It seems like they are both injured. Why are we here all of a sudden? Which heavenly prison is this? The people who had just arrived were confused. They had no idea what was going on. Brother Nie, what's going on? Ji Kachin, Mo Xiantian, and the others came up to Nie Tian and asked in a panic. That's the ninth heavenly guardian. He's going to kill all of us. Nie Tian wore a helpless expression and let out a wry smile. Why? Aren't we going to participate in the heavenly pillar plan? Bai Zichio was dumbfounded, and his mind was completely blank. He had no idea how strong the ninth heavenly guardian was, but judging from his aura, he was no match for him. Ha! The ninth heavenly guardian burst out laughing and said with a murderous aura, "Your trip to the heavenly prison dragon sect has come to an end. Killing you all is considered helping you complete the heavenly pillar plan." This. Bai Zichu took a deep breath and stared at Nie Tian in shock. Where did this guy come from? Why is he so terrifying? It doesn't matter where he came from. If we don't kill him, all of us will die here. At that moment, Yen Wushan and the others arrived and stared at Nie Tian. It was obvious that they wanted to work together. Even though they were competitors and even had a grudge against each other, it was a matter of life and death. If they didn't work together now, they would die for sure. Nie Tian, Yi Wang, if we work together, we might have a chance to survive. Bai Tu Jin looked at Nie Tian and Yi Wushang when he saw how strong the ninth heavenly guardian was. Yes. Yi Wushang and Nie Tian exchanged glances and nodded. Ha 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 ha. When the ninth sky guardian saw this, he laughed even more wildly and said coldly, "A bunch of ants. Even if they join forces, they are still ants." Idiot. Don't you know that many ants can kill an elephant? Chen Yuan sneered and stepped forward. His aura was unleashed and 8 sharp claws appeared behind him. The sharp aura pierced through the sky. Boom, boom, boom. At the same time, the others also unleashed their power. Violent auras covered the sky and earth, causing the void to tremble. There's hope. Nie Tian's eyes narrowed. He saw a glimmer of hope when everyone was united. Whoosh! In the next moment, the sword in the sky pierced through the void and unleashed a powerful sword intent. It condensed into a sharp sword in the air and attacked the ninth heavenly guardian.